Introduction to Two Dark Clouds in Immortal Cultivation. When spiritual energy is not spiritual energy, and when clear spiritual energy is also not clear spiritual energy. When talent is not innate, and when the supernatural powers of Taoism are also not supernatural powers of Taoism. When everything is reversed and then reversed. The mysteries hidden in history, the mists scattered throughout reality, the dark clouds floating on the heads of cultivators, what truths will fall out of them. Chapter 1. Paper Contract. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the year 3054 of the reign of Emperor Daily, on the 25th day of the first lunar month, there was a startled insect. After the rain in Baiwu town, the moon is clear and the stars are sparse. Bai Qipan sat in front of the inn, waiting for someone who was related to his fate. A few days ago, one of the three major sects in the world, the Xuanqing sect, issued a secret recruitment order to recruit leaders from the misty forest. The so-called guide, as the saying goes, is called a ground companion. As a native of Baiwu town, Bai Qi has ventured into the misty forest of Haoshan since childhood and is familiar with the surrounding environment. Naturally, he passed the assessment easily. What he didn't expect was that he received a blank contract, which neither stated the customer's requirements nor specific compensation. Only the three prominent characters printed on the contract. Xuanxingmen. Constantly remind Bai Qi that the thin yellow paper is beyond doubt. And the envoy who delivered the contract held the token of the Xuanqing gate. When he issued it, the whole town was shocked, and many big shots came to pay their respects, indicating that the reason was not small. This person is tall and imposing, with soft armor shining brightly. His broad face has a thick beard, giving people a feeling of being experienced and stable. He must also exist as a pillar in the Xuanqing sect. Bai Qi saw his back and believed a little. However, after only a moment of faith, it disappeared completely. After the dignified envoy dismissed the crowd on the grounds of in-depth communication with the guide, he ran over to Bai Qi and sat down, approaching him and asking, "Brother, how many drinks should I have?" The eyes of this guy in front of me have clearly not experienced any wind and frost. Oh no, I'm not at home. The young master is called Qin Tianyun, call me Xiaoyun, oh no, just call me Tianyun. Before Bai Qi could speak, Qin Tianyun patted the horizontal flesh on his chest and introduced himself. Are you not an envoy? Bai Qi Xin became wary and clearly remembered the envoy's name as Qin Tianming. He, of course not, Qin Tianming is my brother. Qin Tianyun had no hesitation and took off his wig and beard, revealing a round face. There was no sign of stability, clearly a young man of the same age as Bai Qi. Brother, don't panic. I'm not a bad person. I've been putting in a lot of effort to find you. Don't make any misunderstandings. Bai Qi was speechless for a moment. What's going on here? Why are you looking for me? As one of the three giants in the world, the recruitment order issued by Xuanxingmen has undergone multiple rounds of selection. Just as they were about to sign a contract with the guide in the screening, a fat man who impersonated an envoy suddenly appeared and said he was a good person. Who would believe that? Without saying a word, Bai Qi will rush out the door. Don't, brother. If you have something to say, I beg you. Qin Tianyun grabbed Bai Qi and pleaded bitterly, can you give me time to explain a song? Bai Qi raised one finger and said with a smile, one sentence. Qin Tianyun saw a turning point and smiled as he pulled Bai Qi to sit down. A pot of small wine emerged from his waist, and he poured it out, saying, brother, don't worry, listen to me talk. Bai Qi pretended to leave. You should know that impersonating the envoy of the Xuanqing sect can be a big or small matter. It involves losing one's livelihood and losing one's life as a result. Bai Qi has been operating here for many years and doesn't want to take this risk for no reason. Big brother, I'll be honest, I'll be lenient. Qin Tianyun helplessly put down the wine jug in his hand, loosened his belt, removed his soft armor, and took out a half-palm-sized Xian Huanyu to hand to Bai Qi. Bai Qi took it and found that the jade was extraordinary. Starlight flowed inside, and the three characters Qin Tian Yun could be vaguely seen, as well as some unknown runes floating around. The identity symbol of the Xuanqing sect, and it is extremely impressive. Bai Qi's suspended heart let go slightly. Qin Pengzi saw that Bai Qi's face had slightly calmed down, and he immediately seized the opportunity to explain from beginning to end what he meant by where he came from and how it was not easy along the way. So, are you one of the 12 peaks of the Xuanqing sect and the closing disciple of the Xiansan peak? Is this trip unauthorized without the permission of the school? How to say this, it's about releasing oneself. The purpose is to enter the misty forest. That's right. Tell the truth. It's to participate in the enrollment exam of Star Academy. Bai Qi couldn't help but cry and laugh. He was a disciple of the third peak of the Xuanqing sect who closed the door. He was so towering, crossing thousands of miles to get a spot in the big exam and running to hug his thigh. It was so mysterious. Qin Tianyun was not foolish. Seeing that Bai Qi still had doubts, he pointed to the contract in Bai Qi's hand. Bai Qi understood that in order for this contract to take effect, both parties need to communicate with the code in order for it to officially take effect. Qin Tianyun's meaning is very clear, and he knows the code. Qin Tianyun said proudly, "The rainstorm wind is coming, can you have a leader to respond?" Bai Qi glanced at Qin Tianyun and said, "I am the storm." As expected, like a contract baptized by time, it blooms with a light yellow light, slowly floating in the air, waiting for both parties to sign. Bai Qi glanced sideways at Qin Tianyun and said, "Secret language can be stolen. Don't bully others too much, believe it or not, I'll beat you up." Qin Tianyun was anxious and finally found the main leader, but was repeatedly suspected. He rolled up his sleeves and wanted to give Bai Qi a chubby beating. Bai Qi didn't take this trick, but his doubts had already been dispelled. Let's see that Qin Tianyun's actions were not like those of a swindler. He raised his glass and said, "Come, wash the dust for you." Qin Tianyun was taken aback. This is believe it. Of course, Bai Qi doesn't fully believe it. Take a few drinks and see if you can speak the truth after drinking. Qin Tianyun was led by Bai Qi's rhythm, and this time it was his turn to be a bit incredulous. He was skeptical and said, "Don't deceive me, young master. I have been in the martial arts world for many years, and I am not an easy bully." After speaking, he raised his fists with flesh. Bai Qi only said, "Do you want to drink?" Drink. The two were of similar age, and after drinking a few small glasses of wine, Qin Tianyun began to talk incessantly, pouring out all the hardships he had experienced along the way, and almost burst into tears. Bai Qi caught a useful piece of information in his words. The reason why the blank contract is blank is because the customer wants to leave it blank until both parties reach a friendly agreement. Qin Tianyun arrived earlier this time to compete for a spot in the misty forest for Bai Qi, because only this contract is blank. According to Qin Tianyun, not to mention the small matter of adding a spot, as long as Bai Qi accepts the conditions proposed by the customer, he can offer any compensation he can think of. With the background of the Xuanqing gate, Bai Qi didn't think that Qin Tianyun came just by opening his mouth. "Brother Qi, let me ask General Qin to help you check your pulse. I see that you are fresh, handsome, and majestic. You must be one of the most extraordinary talents in the world, Where is your spiritual power?" Qin Tianyun didn't react for a moment and looked at Bai Qi in surprise. Bai Qi naturally understood Qin Tianyun's surprise. With Qin Tianyun's identity, the people around him could not be ordinary people, even the lowest level laborers were also cultivators that ordinary people could not reach. Suddenly, seeing an ordinary person was probably more strange than seeing a monster. "If I have spiritual power, how can I freely enter and exit the misty forest and lead the way for you?" Bai Qi said lightly. Those who cultivate immortals in the world should not enter the mist, which is the special feature of the mist forest. The mist in the forest and the spiritual power of the cultivator are mutually exclusive. Once the spiritual power is activated in the mist forest, it will be backfired, and the stronger the spiritual power, the more intense the backfire. That's true. Qin Tianyun nodded and said, if you want to cultivate immortality, you can add a clause in the contract to allow the Xuanqing sect to bestow a fortune on you. In addition, I will give you a heavenly and earthly treasure as a reward, completely improving your talent. Ordinary people cultivate immortals and feel sad to ascend to heaven. In Qin Tianyun's words, it is like having a meal at home. After 3 rounds of drinking, Bai Qi didn't understand and asked, there are still 6 months left until the star exam. Why did you enter the misty forest so early? And are you willing to pay such a huge price? Bai Qi doesn't know much about cultivating immortality, because he cannot cultivate immortality. A huge cost. The Star Academy has set the 3-year exam here for the first time, so it's no wonder you're not aware of it. Qin Tianyun said confidently, after all, many small sects have come forward to climb to the top of this exam, and even some mid-level sects are willing to give their all and praise one person. In the big exam, if one person wins, the entire sect will ascend to heaven, and the reward far outweighs the effort. Moreover, this big exam is highly likely to be accessible to ordinary practitioners, relatively fair, and easy to advance to higher levels, the only way. So, do you know the importance of early layout? What is hot, you are. What is the most beautiful guy, you are. Qin Tianyun and Bai Qi hooked their shoulders and said, what is the best thing to start first, I am. Ha ha ha. The moonlight shone through the window into the inn. Bai Qi helped Qin Tianyun into the guest room and settled down. He went alone to the inn door and sat cross-legged, carefully examining the contract under the moonlight. The paper floats lightly, and the heart is heavy. The unlimited content is both an opportunity and a risk. The greater the opportunity, the greater the accompanying risk, which is an unbreakable truth in the world. May I ask who doesn't want to cultivate immortality, soar in the clouds and mist, scatter beans and become soldiers, fly to the sky and escape the earth, and flip mountains and seas? In a moment of thought, what a majestic and imposing presence it is. Moreover, the starry sea is the ultimate romance for men. Judging by the influx of various forces, Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net may need to be prepared to seek favor through fate. A reward, a quota, a fate. Perhaps, this is the only cure for a mother. Perhaps this is the only way to break the night watch curse. Perhaps fate is waiting for Bai Qi to open up. Dada, dada. The rhythmic sound of horse hooves breaks the tranquil night. Bai Qi looked through the moonlight and followed the sound, only to see 2 figures diving down from the mountain, trailing a dark yellow light from far to near, straight through the bluestone street of the small town, as if exiled to the mortal world. Rainstorm wind is coming, can you have a guide to respond? I am the storm. Before the arrival of the person, the sound arrived first. It was the voice of an old man, thick and slightly weathered, and he only heard his next shout. Oh! It's the fragrance of wine. Drive. After speaking, he quickly urged the horse. Following closely behind was a young girl, with a tall figure in a clean and neat white outfit. Her face was covered in thin gauze, and her hair was simply tied up in a bun. Her green hair fluttered in the wind, like a fairy descending to earth. Da-da, da-da-da. At this moment, there was a loud sound of horse hooves, and hundreds of horses climbed over the mountain to begin the arrow team diving, gradually forming a 2-horse parallel sharp arrow formation, shooting directly at the location of Bai Qi and others. Where did this commotion come from? With so many followers. Are you sure it's not an enemy pursuit? Child, put away your contract and wine, get on your horse, set off. The old man shouted loudly without stopping. It seems that there are many enemies at home. Where are you going on horseback? Where do these people come from? What do you want to do? Countless questions arose in Bai Chi's mind. Chapter 2. Small Gambling Contract. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Who are you? Give your name. Hundreds of horses swooped down from the mountain, their momentum so great that they immediately alarmed the town guard. A strong and powerful voice shouted. The Star Academy has designated the enrollment exam here, so it is natural to prepare early. For example, within a 10-mile radius of the small town, no air is allowed, which is one of them. A large number of people and horses are strictly prohibited from entering the small town, which is also one of them. Obviously, the leader of the team knew this rule and raised his fist to signal the rear team to stand still, while he and the two guards around him did not lift their heads, but instead accelerated their speed and headed straight for the town. Since it is strictly prohibited for a large number of people and horses to enter, it will be changed to a small team. Xian Tongling is here, please check it, said the left guard, throwing the token in his hand into the air. The token spun in the sky, its golden color exceptionally dazzling. The garrison stood on the roof, glanced at the Xian Tongling, and no longer stopped. I actually forgot that Luo Gang is guarding here, the old man who came to Bai Chi said to the girl next to him, finally getting rid of these followers. They're not as eye-catching anymore, so let's take a break. The old man was dressed in a dark yellow Taoist robe, with white hair and beard. If he hadn't poured wine into his mouth while speaking, he would have had a somewhat ethereal demeanor. Bai Chi always feels very similar to someone when observing his method of changing wine. The girl's red lips parted slightly and looked at her classmate Bai Chi, saying, I will follow my master's arrangements, just don't involve innocent people. The old man in the yellow robe gave Bai Chi a playful glance and smiled, would you like to help me? He then poked the direction of the three-person team with his finger. Bai Chi was shrouded in clouds and mist, in a state of confusion. He was getting on his horse and running quickly, and he was fighting with immortals. Now, there is even a chance for ordinary people like me to get involved. Not willing. Bai Chi refused directly. Think about it, the other party has over 100 people and horses, not to mention daring to charge towards the small town designated by the Star Academy. Just that momentum alone shows that the visitor is not kind. The old man didn't expect the young people to be so clear-headed in the world now, and he laughed to cover up his embarrassment. I am willing. The person who answered the conversation was none other than Qin Tianyun. General Qin woke up at some point, opened the window on the second floor of the inn, and after speaking, he jumped into a fish and flew straight towards the young girl. The girl seemed to have anticipated earlier and lightly moved her lotus steps to avoid it. Qin Tianyun pounced on his dog and nibbled on feces, but what kind of person is Qin General? He casually dusted his body, striking at a thick-skinned and polite person, saying, Xiao Tian has seen Shiyu, junior sister, and Xian Su. Ouch. It hurts, it hurts. You've been causing trouble all the way, and you still have the face to appear, Qin Tianyun said before being picked up by the old man Xuanqiu and turned his ears in circles. Under the moonlight, the girl smiled lightly beside her, her smile like a flower. For a moment, Bai Chi was captivated, as if seeing a fairy show her face. A shameless person should hold several positions, relying on the dispensable official positions in the door, under the guise of escort, to approach Shiyu junior sister closely and follow along, almost exposing your whereabouts. Damn it! Damn it! Qin Tianyun could turn around, but could not stop saying, he is not afraid of causing trouble. Good guy. Bai Chi finally understands that the momentum of daring to make hundreds of horses is not from the pursuit of enemies, but from admiration. Bai Chi, can you help me explain this to you? Is this the right reason? They have nothing to say when they catch up with them based on their strength. Bai Chi spread out his hand. Qin Tianyun couldn't help but say, you're a picky eater. Give me the wine. Bai Chi pretended not to hear and suggested, the guest has come from a long distance, and I believe the journey will be tiring. Please come with me into the house to rest, so that we can discuss the contract tomorrow. In Bai Chi's mind, the contract was the top priority, and he had a premonition that there was not much time left for him. The recruitment and assessment of the guide ended only 2 days ago. Qin Tianyun and his 3 companions arrived first, followed closely by hundreds of horses, indicating that the main team of the Xuanqing sect is not far from Baiwu town. The 12 peaks of Zhuangxingmen are located thousands of miles away from Baiwu town. Although Baiwu town is the territory of Xuanqing Gate, other sects are probably not fuel-efficient lamps. Even if the news is slow, it cannot slow down much. It is not difficult to imagine that in a few days, the entire town will be overcrowded, with conflicts and frictions arising everywhere. At that time, there will be a mix of good and bad, and it will be even more difficult to gain an advantage in time. Moreover, the current Qin Tianyun is already enough for Bai Qi to have a headache, and there is another situation where Zhang Shi covets the blank contract in his hand, giving rise to new branches outside of his control, which is not what Bai Qi wants to see. After all, the small town is not its own home ground. If you want to fight, make a scene. Let's wait until you enter the misty forest. That's where all beings are equal. Of course, if the visitor is not kind and wants to start fighting in the small town, he is not afraid either. Qin Tianyun didn't know that Bai Qi was winding around and asked, "Are you afraid? Do you want to avoid Zhang Shi?" Bai Qi supported his forehead, unaffected by Qin Tianyun's provocation. Xuanqiu bent his finger and flicked it on Qin Tianyun's forehead, causing him to scream in pain. Good suggestion, rest on the spot and walk all the way through the stars and the moon. This old bone is about to loosen. Xuanqiu squinted his eyes and glanced at Bai Qi, regardless of whether Qin Tianyun wanted it or not, carrying it towards the house. Qin Tianyun cried out in pain all the way. Under the bright moonlight, Bai Qi and the young girl became independent. Su Shiyu was elegant and introduced himself. "My name is Su Shiyu, please give me more guidance. Just call me Bai Qi, welcome to Baiwu town." Bai Qi took the initiative to lead Su Shiyu's horse and said, "Are you still used to riding horses?" Su Shiyu said, "I learned it in my childhood and rarely ride it." In today's prosperous era of cultivating immortals, cultivators control their own spiritual tools to fly, and wealthy mortals can also achieve freedom of flight by purchasing spiritual tools and stones. However, on the eve of the star exam, the White Mist town strictly prohibited it and had to restart the ancient transportation of horses. Bai Qi had nothing to say and asked, "Have you ever entered the misty forest?" Su Shiyu shook her head slightly and said, "I often hear it, but I haven't been inside." The misty forest coexists with heaven and earth, scattered throughout the world of entropy creation, and there are numerous studies on it. Why did you look at me when you just mentioned involving innocent people? I'm afraid Zhang Shi's goal is the same as Tianyun's, both of which are to obtain a spot in the college entrance examination, but I think his technique may be another extreme. Can't they secure a spot in the exam with their strength? It's not impossible to win. Tianyun doesn't need a big exam to prove himself. Zhang Shi is not allowed in the door. And you? Me, I want to come out and take a look. Bai Qi arched his hand and said, "Thank you very much for your understanding. The guest must be tired from wearing the stars and moon. Please rest at the star cloud room on the 3rd floor." Su Shiyu nodded slightly and said, "How do you plan to send Zhang Shi and the others away?" The sound of the 3-person team's hooves getting closer and closer. If the other party really came towards the blank contract, Bai Qi was afraid it was unavoidable. Qin Tianyun quickly shook off Xuanqiu and ran to Bai Qi with a serious expression, saying, "Brother, that guy is used to being domineering and not easy to provoke." A bright light flashed in Bai Qi's eyes as he looked at Qin Tianyun with a smile. "Since we can't avoid it, we'll meet him for a while. Are you interested in making a bet?" Qin Tianyun was taken aback for a moment and carefully looked at Bai Qi, trying to see something from his gaze. He then put the letter to his question and said, "Let's have a fight together, brothers." Don't deceive me. What's the gambling method? They won't be able to do anything good with me tonight, and they will stay outside for a whole night. Bai Qi raised a finger and smiled, if everything is achieved, I will win, but I won't be able to achieve it. Do you win? Do you want to bet? Xuanxu approached the two of them and said with great interest, it's fun, I bet you win. Qin Tianyun didn't expect Xuanxu to have a positive outlook on Bai Qi. However, I have one condition. I am not allowed to use deceit, Xuanxu added as he looked into Bai Qi's eyes. Bai Qi had a feeling of being seen through all over his body. The path of deceit, jokingly known as the path of life, the path of death, was also Bai Qi's life. Saving means in the misty forest. Who would practice such a strange Taoist technique that even ordinary people would abandon as their shoes? Either they are people who have no way out, or they are people who constantly wander on the edge of risk. If cultivators have other choices, they will never practice supernatural arts, because the cost of using them is lifespan. Xuanxu's proposal of these conditions is probably to increase the difficulty of gambling, and secondly, to observe Bai Qi's adaptability. Bai Qi naturally understood and used it as a temporary test for signing a blank contract. Qin Tianyun couldn't stand any longer and quickly raised his hand, I bet. What do I bet on? The bet is easy to say, Bai Qi left a sentence and slowly closed the door. I also prepared a meeting gift for a few guests, please accept it with a smile. Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun looked at each other, wondering what the hell Bai Qi was up to. Are you still in the mood to prepare gifts at this time? Speaking slowly, then fast, the three-person team has appeared at the foot of the mountain slope. Bai Qi turned around and waited with his hands down. The three of them quickened their horse steps like wolves rushing towards them. Who is blocking it? Report your name. Zhang Shi, the left guard, approached and pointed his whip at Bai Qi. It seemed that he was used to this kind of action, so he came up and questioned. Bai Qi replied, Bai Qi, may I ask if the guest has any instructions? Humph, open the door. My master has an urgent matter, you can't afford to delay, said the left guard, taking a money bag from his waist and throwing it at Bai Qi. The power of a cultivator's throw is not something that ordinary people can bear, indicating their hidden heart. Stop it. Zhang Shi kept observing Bai Qi and stopped drinking. The left guard's movement paused, and Yu read a book at www.yuukangshu.net and said yes, retreating to the left rear of Zhang Shi. Zhang Shijia stepped forward and asked from a high position, your name is so familiar to me. Do you think you should be the leader of the championship? Exactly. Zhang Shi's face softened slightly, took the money bag from the left guard, and threw it at Bai Qi's feet. Can you easily move and speak? Bai Qi glanced at the money bag on the ground and smiled, it's not very convenient for the inn to close. You. Do you know who he is? The guard on the right side was furious. Zhang Shi's face turned cold. What kind of people are they? They are disciples of the main peak of the Immortal Cultivation sect. If it weren't for the Star Academy guarding this place, it would be strictly forbidden to kill ordinary people. Otherwise, ordinary people like Bai Qi would just be ants they can easily crush. I don't know, Bai Qi said with a smile on his lips, as if his words were precious, I don't know. I see you're at a loss, kneel down. The right guard had never seen a mortal being so disrespectful to them. In a fit of anger, he was eager to show it and bent his finger to condense light, shooting towards Bai Qi's knee, wanting him to crawl on the spot. Killing is strictly prohibited, but conflicts are strictly prohibited. Once a conflict occurs, it is normal to break hands and feet. Bai Qi took a step back and was able to avoid it without fear of laughing back. This guest, will you ruin the purpose of your master's trip? The right guard hesitated for a moment, then remembered the purpose of this trip and couldn't help but look at Zhang Shi. Zhang Shi was burning with anger, but it was not easy to get angry. Su Shiyu watched his every move inside the inn. Perhaps Bai Qi was the test she left behind, or else a mere mortal would dare to block his way. After a moment of silence, he said, "Let's make an offer." Bai Qi grinned and revealed his white teeth, saying, "They each have one leg." The voice of the youth seemed to come from the depths of the mist. Chapter 3. This sun is interesting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhang Shi and the three of them opened their mouths wide, unable to believe their own ears. It was absurd, it was too absurd. How ignorant would it be to say such a thing? Ha ha ha, good, good. The right guard said 3 times in a row, as if hearing a big joke. Let's see what skills you have. Come on, hug your 2 thighs, you can choose. The left guard stretched out his left foot and sneered. The 2 of them sang together and burst into laughter. The left guard felt that he was not fully satisfied, and his 5 fingers became claws. He suddenly grabbed the stone next to him, and the stone made a crisp sound, which burst in response. Why, are you scared out of your wits? If it were your brain melon seeds, it wouldn't just end up shattered. Bai Qi looked at the 3 people quietly and said, with only 3 spectators, it's a bit too few. If there were more spectators present, it would be fun. In the eyes of the 2 guards, Bai Qi must have been stunned by the claw just now and began to speak nonsense. He shouted, "You are limited to 10 breaths, kowtow and admit your mistake, hand over the contract, otherwise you will lose your legs." Inside the house, Qin Tianyun had already grown tired of such a style and wished to break through the door and strip his 2 dog legs. Su Shiyu frowned lightly and looked at Xuanqiu. Xuanqiu said mysteriously, "This sun is not alone." Qin Tianyun looked around and saw that there were only the 3 of them inside the house. Apart from Zhang Shi and the 3 of them outside, where did anyone come from in the middle of the night? Did they see a ghost? Xuanqiu asked, "Do you know how this sun won the championship?" Su Shiyu shook his head slightly, indicating that he did not know that all the affairs on this trip were arranged uniformly by the sect. Qin Tianyun shook his head like a tambourine, and he was the one who sneaked out. If he wanted to know, he might not know. At that time, a total of 198 people participated in the guide assessment in Baiwu town. Xuanqiu said, referring to the previous examination methods of Xingqian Academy, 100 boats competed, and the person who arrived at the designated location the fastest won. Qin Tianyun and Su Shiyu nodded slightly, and they naturally knew the rules of the previous Star Academy entrance examination very well. This sun stood at the starting point, blew a whistle, and called for an eagle. The eagle led him straight to the finish line and won. Qin Tianyun's eyes lit up and he felt particularly cool. Can you still play like this? Su Shiyu pondered for a moment and said, "What master means is that all participants assume that he is the champion and there is no other choice." That's right, this sun is in Baiwu town, echoing every call. Xuanqiu said and pressed Qin Tianyun back to his seat. Didn't you offend anyone, did you? Qin Tianyun quickly shook his head and thought to himself, "Brother Bai, why didn't you say so early?" Fortunately, General Qin likes to be soft and doesn't like to be forceful and bow down. Coffee. 10 breaths had passed, and a whistle came from outside the house. Qin Tianyun and others looked out together, and through the doors and windows, dozens or even hundreds of fireworks could be heard soaring into the air. Su Shiyu's beautiful eyes were lively, and suddenly remembered the sentence left by Bai Qi. She blurted out, "It's a gift." After speaking, she walked to the window to look. Moonlight pours down like the Milky Way, scattering on the human world. Hundreds of brightly colored fireworks exploded in the air, like the stars blooming in the Milky Way, making people dizzy and mesmerizing. Interestingly, this kid is to my taste, somewhat reminiscent of the old man's style. Xuanqiu lay on the armchair, laughing heartily. Of course, different people enjoy different scenery. As cultivators, Zhang Shi and his 3 companions had a range of more than 10 times that of ordinary people. Naturally, they discovered that behind a fireworks display, they represented a person who was scattered around the town. At this moment, they were all focused and gathered towards the direction of the inn. To Zhang Shi and the two guards, this scene was just a dying struggle for Bai Qi. You should know that even the strongest mortals, compared to the lowest level cultivators, are still a difference of clouds and mud. It is not simply a matter of quantity that can bridge the gap between the two. Moreover, as long as they give a command, a team of hundreds of people outside the town can only make it in time to charge, so why be afraid of just ordinary people? I've seen someone die before, I've never seen someone call out a group to die, ha ha ha. The two guards burst out laughing, and in their eyes, Bai Qi was not only ignorant but also brainless. I haven't seen so many fireworks blooming at the same time in a long time. Bai Qi looked up at the sky, his eyes sparkling with stars, and muttered to himself, "The night is really beautiful tonight. Appreciate and cherish your last moments." The two guards laughed and looked at each other, but they were no longer in a hurry to take action, as if intentionally waiting for the gathering. What other tricks are there? Use them generously. Bai Qi remained silent. Unlike the two guards, Zhang Shi glanced at the open window on the third floor and vaguely saw a beautiful figure watching the fireworks in the sky. A surge of anger surged in his heart and he glared at the left guard. The left guard remained silent and understood. He took out a token and ordered the escort team outside the town to enter the town. The sudden fireworks scattered in the sky, and the sound of explosions was continuous. Both inside and outside the town had already woken up, and the escort team quickly charged after receiving orders. Perhaps due to the mysterious command, Luo Gang did not appear at this time. Without Luo Gang's command, the small team guarding Xingqian Academy, as well as the judges, teachers, and students dispatched in advance to set up the venue, remained silent. The escort team was smooth all the way, and the speed was getting faster and faster. The dense sound of horse hooves was like a sudden rain falling. Zhang Shi withdrew his gaze and walked up to Bai Qi, saying in a deep voice, "Call a group of people to die, but what do you want?" According to what I said in the contract, they can avoid death. What a crazy tone, is this the foundation of the three famous sections? Besides, are you sure you're not the ones who came all this way to die? Bai Qi took a step forward and turned ironically. If it weren't for that blank piece of paper, you would have already been separated. Zhang Shi's face was gloomy and he gritted his teeth. Don't think I can't do anything about you, just let you taste the pain of siblings screaming in front of you. Bai Qi remained unmoved and said calmly, "The winner of the deer is yet to be determined." Both sides began to wait, waiting for everyone. Inside the room, the figure of Luo Gang slowly appeared and bowed to Xuanxu, saying, "Young generation Luo Gang, have you met Senior Xuanxu?" Xuanxu waved his hand and said, "You kid has made a lot of progress." "Senior, it's ridiculous." Luo Gang arched his hand and sighed, "My realm has already reached its peak. 3 years ago, I wanted to come to this land to try my luck, but I didn't expect to be really hit." Xuanxu became interested and, with the high level of Luo Gang's realm, guarded a small town, which was somewhat overpowering. "Oh. How do you say that?" "I'm afraid you'll laugh," Luo Gang said. "If this kid outside is willing to pass on all his gains to me, perhaps he has a chance to break through a great realm." "Who? Breaking through a great realm?" Qin Tianyun listened attentively, but still couldn't believe it. "What realm does Luo Gang have?" Qin Tianyun can probably guess 7 or 8 points. Who outside the house has such divine abilities? Looking at the world, any item that can elevate one's realm is nothing but a rare item that millions of people are crazily snatching. Any Taoist technique that can elevate one's realm is a top secret. What kind of earth-shattering thing can Bai Qi obtain to elevate Luo Gang's realm? It's a question whether Bai Qi can still live to this day if he really has such a unique skill. Naturally, they are the ones who drink with you, Luo Gang said without hesitation. Qin Tianyun was shocked and said, is that guy Bai Qi pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. This son has no spirituality and cannot cultivate immortality. Luo Gang shook his head and changed his tone. But in this small town, I manage the day and he manages the night, which is unrelated to each other. Qin Tianyun and Su Shiyu exchanged a glance, looked at Xuanxu together, and then looked at Luo Gang. Their eyes were full of shock and doubt. This kid can even compete with you. Isn't he pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger? Tell me the ghost message. Then Luo Gang asked another seemingly useless question. Do you know why this small town is called White Mist Town? Qin Tianyun and Su Shiyu shook their heads. Because the fog of the misty forest once covered this town seasonally. Until 3 years ago, Bai Qi drove away the mist. Luo Gang's words, like the first thunder of a startled insect, exploded in the hearts of the 3 members of Xuanxu. Hurry up. Xuanxu stood up and caught the personification language used by Luo Gang. Is Mist alive? That's right, senior. It's a rush, Luo Gang confirmed. I came here 3 years ago because of this matter, and it took me a year to observe before I found this piece of evidence. It seems that Xianling insisted on me making a trip, probably because he saw something. Xuanxu stroked his beard and looked outside, murmuring, you can either drive me away or attract me. Yes, Luo Gang confirmed again. There is nothing strange in the world, and even more so in the misty forest. But millions of years have passed, and it has never been heard that mist can be driven away or called upon. Interesting, interesting. A bright light flashed in Xuanxu's eyes. Does anyone in the door know about this? Knowing, but not fully knowing. Luo Gang not only cherishes talent, but also naturally contains selfishness. In Bai Qi, he saw the possibility of reaching a higher realm. If he knew everything in the door, it might be harmful and beneficial to Bai Qi. Xuanxu pondered for a moment and said, well, if you leave this room, there won't be any more of this. Qin Tianyun and Su Shiyu were both awe-inspiring. Although they didn't know the whole picture in just a few words, they knew very well that something worth keeping silent about was bound to be greatly implicated. Outside the house, people and horses gathered, swords and crossbows tense. A team of hundreds of people neatly surrounded the 4 people in the middle, locking onto Bai Qi with an invisible sense of oppression. Meanwhile, the leaders who gathered from all directions scattered unorganized and undisciplined behind the guard. Zhang Shi looked around and saw the half-hearted guide, all of whom were ordinary people with no spiritual spirit to speak of. He immediately felt amused. Not to mention the hundreds of guards, he alone could massacre this group of rabble. The right guard observed his words and expressions, knowing that his master wanted to maintain dignity in front of Su Shiyu and should not make any indecent actions. Therefore, he once again drew out his soft sword from his waist and pointed it at Bai Qi, sneering, I dare not even approach. I still hope they can rescue you. Bai Qi followed with a smile and said, who said they were here to rescue me? Perhaps they were just a group of onlookers. Offenders, kill. At this moment, a bamboo tube as long as the palm of the hand flew from a distance. It was thrown high, flew over the top of the guard team, crossed Zhang Shi's 3 people, and smashed towards the front of Bai Qi. Bai Qi gently tilted his head to avoid it. The bamboo tube smashed against the door leaf, making a slight cracking sound and emitting a strong white smoke. Zhang Shi, the 3 of them, and even the 100 members of the escort team were stunned for a moment, because judging from the direction of the bamboo tube flying, it came from the leader. In fact, it did come from the hands of the guide, because the person remained motionless in the throwing position, afraid that others might not know it was him who hit it. Before Zhang Shi and the others could react, the guides scattered around took out bamboo tubes and smashed them towards the location of Bai Qi. The rich white smoke rolled and dispersed. White smoke quickly engulfed the 4 people in the middle. The mist dispersed from behind the mountain, mixed with white smoke. Qin Tianyun and Su Shiyu inside the room were the first to feel a chill behind them. Their spiritual power seemed to be frozen, and their sharp perception was instantly taken away. They seemed to be submerged in the deep sea, unable to move. Chapter 4. Smoke and Clouds Dispel. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Qin Tianyun and Su Shiyu first came into contact with the mist, their bodies stiffened and they dared not act recklessly, fearing that their spiritual power would be backfired by forceful use. This power, if controlled by someone, can destroy a small sect in just one thought. No, someone has already learned to control. Terrifying. The two characters popped out at the tip of their hearts. With a gentle flick of Luo Gang's long sleeves, two steel balls suspended above their heads and slowly rotated, emitting a silver light that dispersed the white mist around them. At this moment, the sound of bamboo tubes cracking outside suddenly came to an end. Ha ha ha, a despised guy. It's ridiculous. Let me take care of the people. The right guard finally found a legitimate excuse to take action. Thick smoke billowed, spreading from beside Bai Qi, and in no time, it engulfed Zhang Shi and the three of them, heading towards the fan-shaped escort team. Audience in position. Hit your faces, I'm enough alone. A light sigh came from Bai Qi's location, and at this moment, white mist shrouded him, making his figure invisible. No. Hush. White smoke is deceitful. Zhang Shi shouted. As a cultivator, Bai Qi was close in front of him, but he began to lose sight of it. After realizing it, the left and right guards quickly approached Zhang Shi. Take him. Zhang Shi was furious and opened his arms, patting their heads. The two of them experienced a rapid decline in perception, making it difficult for their spiritual power to function in becoming ordinary people. They were extremely frightened in their hearts, but had to grit their teeth and move forward. Bai Qi flicked the smoke lightly and his figure faintly appeared. I heard that the cultivator at the lowest level can easily defeat an ordinary mortal with one enemy and 100. The left and right guards saw the target appear voluntarily, feeling ecstatic in their hearts. They forcefully mobilized their spiritual power and rushed towards it. Ah! Ah! Two screams suddenly came out. Mist and spiritual power repel each other. What is triggered under the fog is not spiritual power, but a life-seeking talisman. Damn it! What kind of Taoist technique is this? The left and right guards were startled. They had seen powerful Taoist techniques and felt suppressed by high-level levels, but they had never seen such a strange spiritual technique before. Take your life. The two of them endured the pain of their meridians being cut by a knife, and once again activated their spiritual power. They knew that if they didn't solve Bai Qi's problem, they were very likely to capsize in the sewer. At this moment, the two of them had no further thought of belittling Bai Qi. Puff. Puff. But before the two of them could take a step forward, a mouthful of fresh blood seeped out of their 5 organs and surged into their throats, spraying out thinly. The two of them could no longer hold on and knelt down on both knees. Bai Qi stood in place without moving a step, looking up at Zhang Shi and saying, "They want to kill me. It's not excessive for each person to pay the price of one leg, is it?" Zhang Shi knew something was wrong in his heart, but he dared not act rashly. The left and right guards had been following him for a long time, and he was not an ordinary mortal who could defeat him. The problem lies in Bai Yan, and he must rush out as soon as possible. Seize this demon. Zhang Shi shouted loudly, then turned around and ran. Bai Qi was taken aback for a moment. He didn't expect Zhang Shi, who was still arrogant, to leave the two guards behind without any hesitation. He could run as he pleased, and his ability to apply oil on his feet was impressive. The 100-person escort team was 100 steps away, hearing screams and a sudden commotion. Then, they heard Zhang Shi's command and immediately mobilized their spiritual power to capture the demon. Bai Qi laughed back without fear and said, "Do you want to run? Take an arrow at me." Since his birth, Zhang Shi has never felt that a short distance of 100 steps is so far. His hand and foot strength is rapidly losing, and he cannot shake or walk away. At this moment, Bai Qi's voice came from behind, like a deadly note, and Zhang Shi almost stumbled and fell to the ground. Bai Qi's voice came again. Very good, within range. When a person loses perception, loses the spiritual power they rely on most, gets stuck in an unknown environment, and someone raises an arrow at the back of their head, they often become disorganized. Zhang Shi could no longer suppress his inner fear and shouted, forcefully mobilizing his spiritual power in an attempt to save his life. Ah! At the same time, screams of agony echoed one after another. The white mist is dyed with blood red, just like the newly bloomed fireworks. Su Shiyu stood by the window watching this scene, her beautiful eyes agile, and her gaze finally fell on the boy who was faintly visible in the fog. Qin Tianyun stood next to him, his eyes shining with golden light. His grandmother was so handsome that she was simply amazing. At first, she seduced the enemy with a light heart, followed by a series of responses. During the process, she presented fireworks as a gift, never giving in when facing others. Finally, she defeated the enemy with a final move, killing them like a snake in a cup, bow, and shadow. The whole process was strategized, and who was more handsome than my elder brother? No one should stop me, I want to hang out with him. From now on, Brother Bai will be my big brother, Qin Tianyun exclaimed in his heart. The body of a mortal is comparable to that of a cultivator, but that's all. Luo Gang praised, if one day the heavens accidentally drop a spoon at his feet, he is very likely to use it to fill the gap between the mortal and the cultivator. At this time, Luo Gang did not know that one day, 3 years later, he would open the special products sent by Bai Qi as usual. At that time, he realized that the youth had flown over the abyss, and as long as he was willing, he could fill this gap at any time and start a new era. Of course, this is all for later discussion, let's postpone it. At present, Xuanxu pondered silently, and this battle alone was not enough to make Luo Gang give such a high evaluation. Obviously, Luo Gang knew more, and Bai Qi had more backing, or in other words, higher potential. Bai Qi didn't know what was happening inside the room, so he lifted his step and walked towards Zhang Shi, with mist surging around him. Zhang Shi knelt down on both legs, completely giving up the use of spiritual power. When he saw Bai Qi approaching with nothing in his hand, he couldn't help but pour a mouthful of old blood into his heart and cough on the ground. The other party only used their lips throughout the entire process. From beginning to end, being played with as a monkey is oneself. Zhang Shi has never suffered such an insult since he was young. He hates it. If there is still a chance, he will definitely repay it 10 times or 100 times. No. There is still a chance, he comes from the Xuanqing sect, and Bai Qi cannot afford revenge within the sect. Zhang Shi grabbed the last straw that saved his life and threatened, you hurt me, you can't retreat all over. If you dare to kill me, even the ends of the earth cannot escape. Bai Qi stood beside Zhang Shi with his hands down and fell into silence. Zhang Shi felt a sense of joy in his heart. He had moved out of the backstage and was considered right. However, he remembered that he had just panicked and fled. If Su Shimi saw him, he was afraid that he would never be able to lift his head again and his hatred towards Bai Qi would add another layer. Tonight there will be no clouds, and the wind will rise and fall. The white smoke gradually dissipated, and the mist seemed to pass from the future. From top to bottom, Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun saw 100 guards overturning their horses, all groaning and falling to the ground. Zhang Shi knelt in front of everyone, like a black dog. From top to bottom, the picture resembles a folding fan made up of human figures, with Bai Qi stepping on the fan bones, standing out among the chickens. At this moment, the two of them in the room were somewhat worried about Bai Qi. Zhang Shi was right, and the power inside the door was beyond Bai Qi's imagination. Qin Tianyun is soft-hearted, thinking that Bai Qi is also aware of the seriousness of the problem and intends to come forward to mediate. Little did they know that Bai Qi had no intention of stopping at all. Bai Qi formed a trumpet shape with his hands and shouted loudly, "Audiences, did you see me hitting him?" The white mist dissipated, and the audience took a closer look. "Offenders, kill." "Ah no, I was wrong. Starting over, the smoke is too thick and I can't see anything." "I can't see it, let's do it again." "You can't see the supporting role for the trick." The onlookers responded, one after another, feeling very happy. "Thank you all for your support." Bai Qi arched his hands one by one and turned to Zhang Shi. "Do you have any evidence to prove that I hit you? Do you have any witnesses?" Zhang Shi was speechless as he ate Huanglian, wanting to cry without tears. The tense atmosphere suddenly dissipated, and Su Shiyu looked in her eyes and burst out laughing. "I said I needed 2 legs," Bai Qi suddenly became cold. Before Zhang Shi could react, he pulled up the chopping stick that had been thrown aside by someone, walked towards the left and right guards, raised his sword, and chopped it down, just like chopping 2 pieces of firewood. A scream of agony arose, and blood spurted out. The calves detached from the guards. Zhang Shi's forehead was bulging with veins, but he no longer dared to brag, because from the moment Bai Qi raised his sword, he saw that Bai Qi's hand was wielding the sword without even blinking his eyes, and he was not a person with a soft heart. "You also need to pay some tuition fees and take out your valuable belongings to pay for it." Bai Qi raised his woodcutter and pointed it at Zhang Shi. In just a short moment, Zhang Shi's soul was subjected to layers of explosive attacks, feeling an unprecedented sense of oppression. This was even more painful than killing him, and his anger could no longer sustain him. He fainted. Hey, hey! I want to play tricks." Bai Qi became anxious and took 2 steps in front of Zhang Shi. He slapped him left and right, causing Zhang Shi's head to buzz. Qin Tianyun was awestruck and unconsciously touched the flesh on his face, completely giving up the idea of going forward to mediate. He dared to be bold, and didn't care about the revenge of the sect forces. Why are you looking at me?" Qin Tianyun suddenly felt uneasy. After Bai Qi was tired from fighting, he suddenly looked up and saw that there must be no good thing. Sure enough, Bai Qi shouted, "Dear Tianyun, is our previous bet still valid?" Su Shiyu felt so happy that she covered her mouth and smiled lightly, hiding to the side. Qin Tianyun was suddenly awakened by such a shout. It turned out that from the moment the gambling agreement was proposed, Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net had fallen into a thief's boat. Now he wants to get off the boat, it's too late. Pit, giant pit. Qin Tianyun is about to cry without tears. "It's good of you, Bai Qi. In the future, after the Mid-Autumn Festival, we will settle accounts. I'm afraid you will have to pay me a sum for General Qin." Qin Tianyun reluctantly came downstairs and after whispering to Bai Qi for a while, he skillfully took off the ring from Zhang Shi's hand. "There's no way, no one wants him to recognize such a big brother who loves money." Bai Qi weighed the items in his hand and showed a satisfied smile. "That, cough cough." Bai Qi suddenly remembered, cleared his throat twice, and respectfully bowed to the upstairs. "I wonder if our previous bet was still valid," another guessed. Qin Tianyun was overjoyed in his heart and couldn't help but praise Bai Qi as a hero. Even teacher Xuanxu was dragged into the water, and he was afraid of being punished with a hammer. Xuanxu brought the teapot to the window and said, "It works." Bai Qi saluted respectfully, his index finger circling around his temple and saying, "The move I just made is called, Smoke and Clouds Dissolve. Could you please give me some guidance?" Su Shiyu hesitated and thought, as the smoke and clouds dissipated, which was in line with the situation. However, why seek advice at this time? Xuanxu understood and laughed, "Good kid, I'll treat you to some wine." A gust of spring breeze brushed by, as if it had come, but as if it had never come, taking away some unseen things. Su Shiyu also understood that it turned out to be tonight's event, which dissipated in the minds of Zhang Shi and others. Qin Tianyun thought to himself that this elder brother would also come, one by one. Bai Qi looked around with a satisfied smile and said, "You guys have to keep a good night watch." "They can't stop it." Luo Gang also came to the window. "The storm is still ahead. Tonight is destined to be unsettled." Chapter 5. The Gear of the Fate of the Era. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing this, Bai Qi frowned lightly. He was familiar with Luo Gang's character, and when Luo Gang was serious, things must have been going in a bad direction. A fist-sized black dot appeared in the cloudless sky, rapidly growing larger. Bai Qi hooked Qin Tianyun's neck and said, "Tianyun, answer me a question, just answer yes or no." Qin Tianyun didn't answer yes, just nodded. Bai Qi asked, "Is that a spaceship?" Qin Tianyun answered seriously, "Yes." Bai Qi's eyelids twitched and he asked again, 30 zhang tall. Qin Tianyun hesitated and said, "Yes." Bai Qi smacked his mouth and continued, "The last question, small one." Qin Tianyun gave Bai Qi a white glance and thought to himself that this was already the third question, but due to the lingering power of Bai Qi's sword, he obediently said, "Yes." Bai Qi clenched Qin Tianyun's neck and asked, "Was it like this before?" Qin Tianyun struggled to break free and said, "No." The corners of Bai Qi's eyes twitched slightly, and now even a horse could see that this edition of the Star Exam was exceptionally impressive. The attic of the inn. Bai Qi has met all the distinguished guests. Bai Qi changed his posture and arched his hand. "I am an ordinary person in my small town, with elderly and young in my family. For the sake of almost losing my life just now, why did the spaceship come? I hope you can dispel some doubts and ease your worries." Qin Tianyun muttered to himself, "Big brother, can you speak well? You still need to ease your worries." A white mist blew past, and the spaceship only had the chance to stumble. Luo Gang walked forward and patted Bai Qi's shoulder, "Looking forward to your return." After speaking, he disappeared into the room. As the garrison envoy, it is inconvenient for Luo Gang to participate in the next topic. In no time, the four of them arrived at Bai Qi's study, formed a circle, and sat on the ground. Xuanxu began to tell. Starry Academy enrolls students every 3 years, catering to all sects in the mainland, regardless of whether they are immortal cultivators, demons, ghosts, monsters, or monsters. Anyone with the ability to meet the conditions, regardless of their background or race, can enter the institution for learning, emphasizing the importance of embracing all rivers and seas and recruiting talented individuals. So many years have passed, but I have never collected the creatures in the misty forest. To this day, the cultivation of immortals is flourishing, with many kings emerging. Countless people explore the misty forest, but they still know very little about the depths of the forest. The Star Academy was founded for 1,000 years, and for the first time, it designated the imperial examination in the misty forest. Why? Nature is to allow the creatures in the misty forest to participate in the big exam. The mysterious voice sounded softly in the study. As soon as these words were spoken, needles could be heard falling inside the attic. The Star Exam is a major event in the field of entropy creation. Bai Qi has heard of it to some extent, and his first reaction upon hearing it is that the creatures in the misty forest have the opportunity to enter the Star Academy to study, which is truly unbelievable. You should know that cultivators and misty forest spirits cannot be said to be creatures from two different worlds, they are simply because of the clear spiritual energy cultivated in misty forest. Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun were shocked that the breakthrough of Xingqian Academy meant that the entire Emperor of Entropy and Mist could reach a certain consensus. What force made them let go of thousands of years of prejudices? Thinking carefully is extremely frightening. The impact of this matter may not be prominent at present, but in the future, it will definitely change the pattern of the misty forest and even the entropy realm. The era of intense collisions is approaching. Xuanxu took out a scroll and spread it on the ground, creating a map. The map is lifelike, with mountains and rivers undulating continuously, rivers winding and surging endlessly, and the shadows of the town come and go, like miniature sand tables. Bai Qi was attracted by a brightly colored red line on the map, which acted as a natural barrier, separating the entropy realm from the misty forest. Baiwu town was located on the marked line, which was very eye-catching. Xuanxu gently projected the town of white mist into mid-air, with details clearly visible. At this moment, countless talented leaders are rushing to the small town on this red line, and that spaceship is just 1 in 10,000. The detailed rules for this year's college entrance examination have not been announced yet. Referring to previous selection methods, it is likely to be within a limited time, starting from the red line and ending at a certain point in the misty forest, completing several tasks during the process, and ultimately determining the winner based on the ranking of points on the ladder chart. After a moment of contemplation, Bai Qilio thought a lot. The first is the guide. In the short term, guides will become a popular group. But as the preliminary route exploration is completed, the guide must quickly exit. In the past, cultivators faced numerous difficulties when entering the misty forest. The guide, as an intermediate buffer, still had practical value. However, the situation is different now. It is believed that among the millions of candidates, there will inevitably be many high-energy individuals who will quickly replace the guide. Furthermore, when two incompatible worlds begin to explore each other, will there be no bloodshed? If you don't exit early, the leader will become two conflicting entities. Cannon fodder. Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun were moved by it. Xingqian Academy has stood firm in the field of entropy for thousands of years, adhering to the four principles of inclusiveness and neutrality. It has never participated in disputes between sects, but this time it is using the future of major sects to explore new paths. What is the reason for this? Bai Qi and others are unknown, but they dare to push a group of students to the front line as a pilot, which shows the immense pressure and determination that Xingqian Academy is facing. Secondly, before the start of the exam, within 6 months, all actions are personal will and not protected. Bai Qi looked at Xuanxu and said, "There are no rules, it's like killing at will." According to this inference, one of the detailed rules of this exam is highly likely to be regardless of life or death. Qin Tianyun finally understood that he was strictly prohibited from participating in this big exam within the peak, fearing that there might be such concerns. Thirdly, there must be a profound meaning behind this big exam. Only with team strength can we go further. Bai Qi continued to analyze. At that time, the form of the task was not important. What was important was that with our current team strength, we were far from enough to cope with the situation where we would inevitably unite. Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun looked at each other, not expecting things to develop in this direction. Su Shiyu lived alone in the door, while Qin Tianyun was immersed in cultivation in the peak. For a moment, where did he summon friends and gather troops? It seems that Zhang Shi is so anxious, afraid that others will take the lead. It's not just because of admiration that someone came to analyze the situation for him and seek your cooperation. Bai Qi touched his chin and said, "He's actually a good partner." Qin Tianyun was shocked and said, "Are you serious?" Bai Qi smiled and said, "One person walks fast, while a group of people walk far. You understand the truth." Qin Tianyun's mind was spinning fast, and he suddenly felt a sense of reason. He hit it off with Bai Qi and said, "It makes sense. I like it, and I agree." Su Shiyu was speechless as she watched the two of them sing and reconcile. Next, we will enter the contract negotiation stage. A blank contract, if there is one more day of suspension, there will be one more risk. After both parties have spoken the secret language, the contract is suspended in front of the four people and can be written simply by reciting the contract silently. Su Shiyu clearly came prepared and made very simple requests. The guide always remained loyal to the guests, protecting their safety, leading them to explore the misty forest, and sharing relevant knowledge with each other for a period of 6 months. Qin Tianyun, on the other hand, was different. In addition to hoping that Bai Qi would take him into the misty forest, he could also fight for a spot in the big exam for him. After that, he stood up and undressed, intending to take off his intimate Haotian silk armor as a deposit. Bai Qi almost flipped his face on the spot. Brother, what he said was natural resources and treasures, but what he dared to say was intimate clothing. I don't want you to be such a deceitful person, Bai Qizheng said, 3 types. A promise to protect my family. A key to unlock cultivation. A spot to participate in the big exam. This trip is extremely dangerous. The promise is for a worry-free rear, the key is to enhance strength, and the quota is to preserve hope. Xuanqiu nodded slightly without intervention. What you gain on the road depends on your abilities. There are unpredictable circumstances, and life and death are determined by fate. The contract is officially signed. The gears of fate officially rotate. Xuanqiu extended his right hand and transformed into a scroll, handing it to Bai Qi. He slowly said, the path to cultivation is full of thorns and thorns. Can you think of it well? Bai Qiliu was excited and took the illusionary scroll. He smiled and said, there is no reason why one should not envy immortals during a trip to the world. Besides, it's not difficult to stay as a mortal. After speaking, I broke the scroll in my hand and it turned into a torrent of information that entered my mind. Bai Qi closed his eyes to digest, and in an instant, he knew where his current problem was. Ordinary people cultivate immortality, emphasizing spirituality and immortality. They have no spirituality, and immortality knows not what it is or where it is located. As Luo Gang said, unless facing adversity, there is no hope at all. Since the young friend's intention has been determined, Xuanqiu took out a glass bottle the size of 2 fingers and handed it to Bai Qi. This drop of immortal qi was accidentally obtained by me and can help you embark on your journey of cultivating immortality. Bai Qi took the glass bottle and couldn't help but sink his palm. The small bottle weighed a lot. Improving the spirituality of ordinary people is an extremely difficult and thankless task, and ultimately, there are only 3 methods. One is to use natural materials and treasures to soak, which takes several years or even decades. The second is to forcefully elevate the top, at the cost that there is little chance for both the top and the top to improve in the future. UU reading www.uukangshu.net is equivalent to promoting the growth of seedlings. The third is to find a place where the spiritual energy is extremely strong and take the immortal energy, thoroughly wash the marrow and bones, achieve success and soar to the sky, defeat and die. The first 2 are not realistic, while the latter still has a chance, but the conditions required for taking immortal qi are slightly more stringent. Bai Qi solemnly bowed to Xuanqiu. Xuanqiu reached out and falsely pleaded, there's no need to bow. It's just a matter of raising a hand for me, but it's a matter of life and death for you. Bai Qi remembered in his heart, no longer being sentimental. At this moment, the square jade pendant hanging on Bai Qi's waist emitted flashes of light, and the 3 characters of Bai Lufeng flashed faster and faster. It's Uncle Lu's message. Bai Qi took off the token and quickly scanned the text that appeared. The spaceship landed, and there was a slight friction. Everyone, please have some tea. This is the Misty Forest Guide. You can browse it when you're free. I'll go back when I go. Qin Tianyun immediately raised his hand and said, I'm going too. Bai Qi waved his hand and said, time is urgent. We will strive to make a quick decision on this trip. Before dawn, let's gather and set off. Su Shiyu warned, the other party has a considerable background. Bai Qi scratched his head and said, it doesn't matter, no matter how big, it's bigger than you. Su Shiyu chuckled lightly. Oh, by the way, I need a little help from you. Bai Qi walked to the back of the bookshelf to change his equipment and suddenly said, can you help me install this spirit stone when I receive my signal? Su Shiyu turned her head and saw Bai Qi naked on the upper body, with well-defined muscle lines, forgetting to answer the conversation. Qin Tianyun's focus was different. His gaze fell on the spirit stone the size of his head, and he immediately knew there was something interesting to do. He ran over to take the spirit stone and promised, "I know." Is the spiritual stone engraved with formations? Brother, this is not a spirit stone, it's clearly a shell. Chapter 6. Category 2 Books. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Qin Tianyun held the spirit stone like holding a hot potato. Anyone who dares to try to refine this potato without being open-minded will inevitably be burnt out. Bai Qi glanced at Qin Tianyun and walked to the corner of the study, lifting the thick black cloth. Boxes of neatly arranged spiritual stones shone brightly, and a strong spiritual energy rushed towards him. "I'm obedient," Qin Tianyun drooled and asked which boy didn't like shells. Bai Qi covered it with black cloth again and pointed to the blank grid on the bookshelf, saying, "Put it here, one at a time." Qin Tianyun stepped forward to take a closer look, and the blank grid was filled with dense arrays of armor-piercing runes. Without great patience, it was impossible to complete such a delicate task. Qin Tianyun looked at the armor-piercing runes on the bookshelf and suddenly thought of something. He casually asked, "Aren't you carving formations all over the whole town?" "It's the first time I've seen you so smart," Bai Qi grinned and patted Qin Tianyun's shoulder. "Here, Luo Gongguan is in charge of the day, and I manage the night with this formation." Although Qin Tianyun already had an answer in his heart, when he truly heard the answer, he couldn't believe it. "Brother, how much effort does it take? It's better to have this time. Why not cultivate?" Bai Qi spread out his hand and said, "I don't have spirituality, so being idle is also being idle." Qin Tianyun couldn't refute it. Su Shiyu was attracted by the conversation between the two and stood up to take a closer look. It was also the first time she had seen such a delicate and complex array of armor-piercing runes engraved on it. Xuanqiu sincerely exclaimed, "Luo Gang's evaluation is indeed correct. The little friend is hiding it." Bai Qi patted his bare chest and said, "Senior, please laugh. I am honest with you both." Su Shiyu's face turned red and she turned around, pretending to be visiting books. "If you are interested in books, feel free to browse through them." Bai Qi noticed Su Shiyu's actions, picked up a black cloth bag, and turned to go out. Pop! A book fell from the bookshelf and landed at Su Shiyu's feet. Su Shiyu bent down to pick up a book with a blank cover. Turning to the first page, he saw light and darkness in 3 large characters, with 2 lines of small characters noted below. Light and wave particle duality. Dark, energy balance. Flip down 1 page, there are only 2 chapters in the table of contents. The title of the first chapter is, The Double Seams of Destiny. The title of chapter 2 is Black Buddy Radiation. Su Shiyu became curious and opened it to look closely, but she found that she could understand all the words individually, but couldn't understand them when they were combined to form sentences. Qin Tianyun saw that Su Shiyu had a strange expression on his face and approached to watch the excitement. After a while, he felt dizzy and muttered, "What kind of ghost symbols are they? I can't understand them at all." The two of them did not believe in evil and randomly selected several books, such as, 2 Dark Clouds, Ether, and Spiritual Mechanics, which were like heavenly books. Even the dark clouds in the sky can write books. Is Ether supreme? Lingli knows, but who is Lingzi? This incident aroused their competitiveness, and after browsing through several bookshelves, they discovered that there was also another major category of research books on formation runes. Is it possible that he self-taught and became successful? Qin Tianyun saw that every book was filled with notes and viewing dates, and there was reason to believe that Bai Qi was self-taught and successful. Su Shiyu nodded slightly and pointed to another book with her slender fingers. "Look at Tianyun, there is a kind of rune that I have never seen before." Upon closer inspection, Qin Tianyun initially felt a bit familiar and not very attentive, but as he scanned the spirit stones on the ground, he immediately exclaimed loudly. Su Shiyu was startled by Qin Tianyun, and gave him a glare. Qin Tianyun shook his head, picked up the spirit stone lying on the ground, and approached Su Shiyu. Su Shiyu leaned back slightly, her eyebrows furrowed slightly, and then her pupils suddenly widened. She saw the runes engraved on the spirit stone, in addition to piercing armor, as seen in books before. Did Bai Qi create a type of formation rune himself? If you don't understand, ask. The two of them quickly came to Xuanqiu with books in their arms and humbly asked for advice. Xuanqiu Shenshi scanned the book, and the text inside was obscure and difficult to understand, with symbols like chicken intestines. Even he digested it for a moment. It should be from the ancient era, telling the story of people's exploration of the rules of the world in the era of lack of spiritual energy. There is a lack of exploration results, and it is unknown whether the library of Xingqian Academy has been preserved. Xuanqiu also cannot understand the mystery behind it. If there is no wrong guess, it should be that Bai Qi wants to find a new way to enhance his strength from it. Qin Tianyun once again placed the rune book in front of Xuanqiu. Xuanqiu quickly browsed through and affirmed, "Little friend Bai Qi, it's really a brand new type of rune." Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun were secretly surprised and felt immense pressure. If that guy had broken through the gates of hell and entered the ranks of cultivation, how strong would he be? Xuanqiu saw the thoughts of the two and lightly tapped the white mist town on the map scroll with his fingers. The picture jumped and saw the back of Bai Qi galloping on Qingshe Street. If this sun crosses the abyss, your generation must have a story of his rise. Xuanqiu commented, however, you are also the proud sons of heaven in your family, so there is no need to underestimate yourself. Su Shiyu looked at the figure on the screen and whispered, Jin Xian opened many windows for him, but closed the most important door. A blessing in disguise is not a blessing, Xuanqiu said, slowly closing his eyes to rest his mind. Su Shiyu put on clothes for Xuanqiu and found a place to start flipping through the fog introduction. Qin Tianyun stared at the screen, waiting for the signal from Bai Qi, ready to load ammunition at any time. Bai Qi changed into a close-fitting outfit and headed straight to the intersection of the town, where a huge vessel was moored. The immense pressure felt as long as it gently pressed against, the town of white mist would crumble. People woke up in shock and ran to the entrance of the small town to see something new. But at this moment, the atmosphere at the intersection of the small town had dropped to freezing point. The leader who threw the first bamboo tube was kneeling on the ground, spitting blood from his mouth, clearly seriously injured. In front of him was a young man dressed in white, 3 brown. There were too many pedestrians on the road, so Bai Qi dismounted and walked away. Bai Lu Feng, who was anxiously waiting at the intersection, finally looked forward to Bai Qi and quickly welcomed him. Bai Qi, something's wrong with Xiaodo. Urgent matter, speak slowly. Bai Lu Feng quickly recounted the whole story. It turned out that Bai Dou, who was greedy for freshness, had come to observe the spaceship when he happened to encounter 4 playboys who had come down from the spaceship. The 4 of them shouted to Bai Dou to lead the way. Seeing Bai Dou's arrogance, he turned around and left, but unexpectedly, it aroused the anger of the young man in white and injured him. Bai Qi quickened his pace and took out 2 crossbows from the black cloth bag to put on his arm, while asking, "How is Xiaodo's injury?" Bai Lu Feng anxiously said, "It's urgent." Bai Qi paused in his footsteps and said in a deep voice, "As usual, go arrange it." Bai Lu Feng was not hesitant and took orders to leave. At the entrance of the small town, when the crowd saw Bai Qi approaching, they automatically gave way to a narrow path. The young man in white noticed that the crowd had quieted down and felt a sense of it. He looked up and quickly locked his gaze on Bai Qi, sneering, "Oh, I fell one, ran one, and came another." Bai Qi walked step by step, ignoring the provocation of the young man in white. He picked up Bai Dou and handed it to the other 2 leaders, whispering a few times. After finishing all of this, Feng calmly asked, "Did you do it?" The young man in white was ignored by Bai Qi, and he was already angry in his heart. He approached fiercely and said, "Just an ordinary person, dare you?" Pop. A loud slap in the face sounded. The young man in white couldn't believe that in his eyes, an ordinary person who looked like a laborer would actually take action against himself, and it was the most embarrassing way to slap his face. Bai Qi ignored the other person's anger and spoke again, "If you have anything to say, just say it. I'm in a hurry, please hurry up. I'll kill you." How has the young man in white ever been insulted like this? In front of so many people, how can he look up and be a good person in the future? Pop. A loud slap rang out again. Everyone's hearts tightened, knowing that there was no room for further maneuvering in this matter. Stop it. At this moment, Luo Gang arrived and the cheers, which contained abundant spiritual energy, came from behind the crowd. Luo Gang pushed through the crowd and came between the two. "The visitor is a guest, take a step back to the vast seeing sky." Bai Qi couldn't help but say, "It's not dawn yet." The young man in white couldn't understand what Bai Qi was saying, but Luo Gang understood. The implication was that you had better not meddle beyond the boundaries, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. Luo Gang turned to the young man led by him and said, "This little friend, if you're out of town, why don't you consider it? Get lost." Before Luo Gang could finish speaking, the young man in white interrupted, "I am the chief disciple of the 17th branch of the 12th organization of the Lingbao Pavilion. I was slapped in the face in public. Why don't you call me?" Luo Gang stood still. The young man in white originally intended to come by boat and would be worshipped by a group of mortals. However, he encountered another Bai Qi who ignored him and slapped him in the face. Now there was another mediator who said no. It was like being played by a monkey, and his anger surged to the heavens. The young man in white imitates, his angry slaps covering his steel face. Luo Gang sighed and grabbed the palm that came towards him. He gently pushed forward, and the crisp sound of fractures echoed in the hearts of everyone. Then came the mournful cries of the young man in white. "Starry Academy Luo Gang, come find me again with your skills." Yu reading www.uukangshu.net. Luo Gang patted his hands and looked at Bai Qi, "And you, take care of yourself." With a smiling expression, Bai Qi waited for Luo Gang to pass by and asked in a low voice, "That stop just now was intentional, wasn't it?" Luo Gang remained noncommittal. Bai Qi shook his head and thought to himself, "Your old man came specifically to vent his anger on Baido. Can you be more straightforward and use this subtle way?" At this moment, the other three young men dressed in traditional Chinese clothing reacted and quickly stepped forward to protect the young man in white. They said sternly, "You are looking for death. Do you know who we are waiting for?" Bai Qi tilted his head and pondered seriously, "The first disciple of Lingbaoxuan with a broken bone and 3 lackeys. Self-seeking death." The 3 young men in brown clothes were angry. Shoo! Shoo! Bai Qi fired 2 crossbows and arrows from Bai Qi's arm to control the enemy. After all, the 3 of them are cultivators who react extremely quickly. They dodge on their sides and come knocking at the door with one swift step. Shoo! 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 At the moment Bai Qi fired the crossbow and arrow, he took a step back. The 3 of them attacked and landed exactly where Bai Qi had just been. Waiting for them were 3 more crossbows and arrows. The arrow came from the roof. The 3 of them stopped their steps and dodged again. Cannon! Bai Qi snapped his finger. 3 spiritual energy bullets came from the roof of the town and rapidly enlarged in the pupils of 3 young people in brown clothes. The burning spirit stone activated by the formation was transformed into a shell, enough for 3 young men in brown clothes to drink a pot. Humph! At this moment, a cold snort came from inside the spaceship, and a thin shield appeared in front of the 4 young people, blocking all 3 spiritual energy bullets. "Oh, there's one crying, 3 shrinking turtles, and another one." The speaker is Bai Qi. Chapter 7. As usual 1. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The smoke and dust dispersed, revealing a human face. This person has pointed beaks and is wearing a blue Taoist robe, with a 4-sheep square cauldron embroidered on his chest. It is believed that he is the protector of the white-clothed youth. Looking at its feet off the ground and floating in the air, it is likely that its realm is above that of a cultivator. As a leader, Bai Qi often leads cultivators into the misty forest, naturally understanding the power division of cultivators and the distinct characteristics between different levels. There are a total of 7 great realms. Cultivators, spiritual beings, mystics, sects, kings, and emperors. Legend has it that there are also 3 great realms above. Veneration of saints and immortals. The distance between the later realm and Bai Qi is too far. He only needs to have sufficient knowledge of the first 2. If he encounters a mysterious person or above, besides applying oil on the soles of his feet, he will have to wait for death. The so-called cultivator realm refers to a person who has just entered the realm of cultivating immortals. By sensing the spiritual energy between heaven and earth, it guides the spirit into the body, enhances the 5 senses of the body, and can be simply understood as a strengthened version of the mortal body. The so-called spiritual realm opens up divine consciousness, mobilizes the spiritual energy of heaven and earth for one's own use, cultivates spiritual skills, and travels through heaven and earth. The biggest difference between practitioners and spiritual beings is that the primordial spirit senses all things in heaven and earth, and begins to cultivate the art of imperial vessels. The guardian with the pointed beak of a monkey walks through the air, using a spiritual protective shield. It goes without saying that it has reached the level of a spiritual being. The 4 of them, as if they had found a treasure, spoke in unison. Zhang Attack Sr. The guardian known as Zhang Attack always stared at Bai Qi, and he listened attentively to Bai Qi's words just now. Zhang Attack Sr., you want to avenge me and kill this scumbag. The young man in white gritted his teeth, wishing to shatter the bodies of Luo Gang and Bai Qi into pieces. Zhang nodded and said to the 3 young men in brown, help Mingxian down. Zhang Mingxian, however, refused and broke free, saying, let go. I want to watch these 2 people crawl under my feet, and I want to hang their heads at the bow of the boat to show them to the public. Zhang's gaze remained fixed on Bai Qi, saying, come up and suffer death. Bai Qi dug his ear and whispered, it's so verbose, whether or not to fight, I'm in a hurry. Humph. As you wish. Zhang Chong snorted coldly, without any movement, and 5 earth spikes pierced from Bai Qi's feet. Bai Qixin felt something and stepped back step by step. Look at me tearing off your support, what else are you fighting me for? Zhang attacked and walked in the air, his 5 fingers forming claws, locking onto Bai Qi, intending to tear off his array power armor. Bai Qi felt a sudden increase in wind pressure around him, and his movements were hindered. He decisively bit the spirit bean in his mouth, urged his strength equipment and the town magic formation, and bent down with the help of force. A fist-sized spiritual energy bullet came from behind him, perfectly facing Zhang's attacking facade. Bai Qi didn't lift his head and said, I have more reliance. Next, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stars came one after another. Zhang Chong squinted his eyes, unable to see any emotional fluctuations. After dispersing the first spiritual energy bullet, he once again transformed into a protective shield to block it. The spiritual energy bomb hit the protective shield, emitting bursts of roar. Bai Qi broke free from confinement and retreated to the small town. At this point, passers-by have all retreated and taken refuge. Humph. Zhang Chuan saw Bai Qi distance himself and snorted, don't think you're the only one with a spiritual cannon. Upon hearing this, Zhang Mingxian suddenly woke up and called out to his friends, follow me, I will personally destroy him. 3 brown youths followed along. Zhang attacked and locked onto Bai Qi, refusing to escape. Bai Qi spread out his hand to show helplessness. As an ordinary person, in the eyes of others, not only is his fate naturally low, but he is also often looked down upon. Let go. In no time, Zhang Mingxian appeared on the spaceship of Nuoda. With a command, 5 spiritual cannons were lowered and aimed at Bai Qi. Bai Qi made a gesture of invitation. Zhang Mingxian saw it so vividly that he could no longer control his anger, completely forgetting that the small town he aimed at had already been taken over by the Star Academy. The spiritual energy bomb pulled the flame tail and crashed towards the small town, but did not land inside. A curved shield of about 10 feet in size appeared in mid-air, blocking the path of the spiritual energy bullet. Zhang Mingxian and others were clearly stunned for a while. Nowadays, a small mortal town also comes with its own shield. Did you make a mistake? Xingqian Academy. Zhang Gong reacted and said, "Humph. You're quite lenient in your management. Intervening in the sparring among the younger generation, how dare you talk about neutrality? I think it's better to let Xuanzhong stop your sponsorship. What Director Zhang said is good, remove the shield." Luo Gang's voice rang out and reached everyone's ears. Sure enough, the shield slowly retreated. Zhang's narrow eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't expect it to go so smoothly. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that Ling Baoxuan was one of the main donors of Xingqian Academy. Zhang Mingxian laughed wildly, if I don't turn you into scum today, my surname is not Zhang. On one side of the passenger ship, there were 5 spiritual cannons, all of which were mobilized by Zhang Mingxian and simultaneously fired 5 spiritual energy shells. Boom! 5 spiritual energy bombs exploded in the air, dazzling like fireworks. The town shield is still here. Zhang Mingxian and others opened their eyes wide to see the real thing. Did they bump into the former residence of a certain immortal character? How about the quality of my shield, not inferior to that of the academy? Bai Qijian pointed over and aimed at Zhang Mingxian through his thumb. Damn it! He installed it again, can you bring me next time? Qin Tianyun saw Bai Qi's graceful movement signal and ran to the bookshelf with 100 reluctantly, putting on the spirit stone. Bai Qi waited for Zhang Mingxian and others to react and said, come and not be disrespectful. Not good, Mingxian, quickly dodge. The spiritual energy bomb, the size of a head, is like a powerful blow from the spirit realm, carrying a crimson flame and smashing towards the spaceship. Zhang Chuan didn't have time to think much and frantically urged his spiritual energy to fly towards Zhang Mingxian. When he arrived, the spiritual energy bomb was already in front of him, and his protective shield was hastily opened, shattering his spine. A violent explosion sounded, debris splattered, and the entire spacecraft shook violently. I'll kill you. Before the debris fell, Zhang Chuan's angry voice came from inside the ship. Qin Tianyun was also very angry. He didn't take any fun things with him. He wanted to be in front of the stage but not behind the scenes. So he ran to the high stone box and picked up a spirit stone that was even thicker than before and placed it on the bookshelf. Only then did he smile with satisfaction. Before Zhang could finish speaking, another spiritual energy bomb hit, completely drowning his voice. Bai Qi was taken aback for a moment and quickly withdrew his handsome posture, thinking to himself whether Qin Tianyun might have misunderstood. A brief silence followed. After a while, Zhang attacked and supported Zhang Mingxian to appear at the entrance of the cave. Strive twice in the spirit realm, which may cause extensive damage, but the Zhang attack on the upper spirit realm cannot instantly put it to death. Bai Qi is clear about this, and Qin Tianyun is even more clear about the door. So it's okay to have an extra one. Qin Tianyun placed the 3rd spirit stone on the bookshelf, feeling his thoughts flowing and his whole body relaxed. He flew up to the front of the screen, pretending to be a crowd eating melons, completely fearless of causing trouble. Bai Qi supported his forehead, thinking to himself why Qin Tianyun, a spendthrift, was the only one to share his savings over the years. Zhang Gong felt bitter in his heart. There were only 19 disciples captured by the 12 institutions and 17 helms, and there were only a few hundred followers of the miscellaneous staff. In order to show off his reputation, Zhang Mingxian insisted on opening the only spaceship in his family. Now he's doing well and has encountered a tough situation. The other party was completely unreasonable and fired 3 shots in a row. Zhang Gong felt remorseful in his heart. He shouldn't have underestimated the enemy just now, but there was no regret medicine in the world. He jumped up and stood in front of Zhang Mingxian, crossed his hands, and aimed at the spiritual bullet to press down. The spirit bullet was under force and plummeted downwards, hitting the ground. Qin Tianyun was greatly disappointed, but there was nothing he could do, which was the main reason why the formation could not be used as the main combat force and could only be used for daily work such as mountain protection. Only Bai Qi, a demon who created his own rune, dared to directly participate in the battle using the formation. "Let's talk, everyone." Luo Gang's voice rang out. Zhang Chong dared not act recklessly, afraid that the spiritual energy bomb would strike again, but he couldn't swallow his anger and said, "Report your name, Lingbao Pavilion will have something in return someday." Bai Qi pulled a chair from the side and sat down. "You don't deserve it." Then the whole town made a sound of gears turning, and gun barrels extended from the chimneys of the houses, quickly adjusting their direction to align with the spaceship. Zhang's pupils trembled violently, and from the sky, there were over 100 orderly arranged spiritual cannons. Qin Tianyun stood up and adjusted the angle of the screen. He also saw neatly arranged spiritual cannons, except for the injured Bai Dou and the one in his hand, a total of 196, which means that everyone in the guide had one. "Good guy, every household is armed to the teeth. 2 of you, let's talk about it." Luo Gang's voice rang out again. Zhang Gongxin knew that he had hit a nail this time. Once he launched an attack, the shells would immediately target Zhang Mingxian, and it was even more impossible to abandon the ship and run away. Now, the only option is to kneel down and beg for mercy. Bai Dou came behind Bai Qi and informed him that everything he had just endured was to be repaid twice by the other party, and that he would handle his own embarrassing situation. Zhang Mingxian was awakened by Zhang's attack and learned that both sides had exchanged strengths and weaknesses. Without any arrogance, he publicly kowtowed and admitted his mistake. Zhang attacked and 3 young men in brown clothes also prostrated on the ground. Bai Qi naturally wouldn't miss the great opportunity to get rich. With a combination of hard and soft measures, not only Zhang Mingxian but also Zhang Gong had to spit out a spiritual weapon as compensation. Zhang's heart was dripping with blood, and he finally understood that 196 spiritual cannons were probably collected and scraped like this. Bandits. Bandits. Zhang Mingxian looked at his entire family as if he had lost his soul. He spoke weakly and said, "If you just let us go like this, won't you be afraid of us going back and forth? Letting go of you is not to be afraid of you, it is to give face to the Star Academy. As for going back and forth, it depends on how much you are willing to pay." Bai Qi stopped lingering, left a figure behind, waved his hand, and said, "This road is impassable, we have a chance to meet again." Zhang Mingxian and others left with a disheveled face, only to choose another place to enter the misty forest. The small town quickly regained its composure, as if accustomed to this farcical ending. Bai Qi walked towards a residential building in the small town, which was his home. The small house is a stand-alone building, with some flowers and plants planted in the yard. It is spring, and the petals are hanging with dew, crystal clear. The parents had already woken up and were waiting for their son's return with tea and even hot little dim sum. At the moment of seeing his mother, Bai Qi felt a pang of sadness in his heart, vowing to cut off that damn curse. Curse is the fate of the entire town, for generations to come. Curse restricts everyone in the town to only enter the misty forest and not to step out of the town for 10 miles. Baiwu town is a true cage. Bai Qixin felt unwilling and wanted to break free from the cage to see the outside world. This big exam is his only chance in this lifetime. Bai Qi chats with his parents and drinks tea. When dawn approaches, he gathers some dim sum and says goodbye as usual. Everything is as usual, roosters crow and insects crawl. Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun took a brief rest at the inn, waiting for Bai Qi to return. When Bai Qi saw the two of them, his heart couldn't help but heat up, as if he had seen a long-lost friend. "Can you bring me along next time when you look handsome? It's too heavy to carry." "Oh, have a good dim sum, and have another one." The sunrise rises in the east, and the sun drives away the thin mist. The young men ride horses and cross the boundary monument between the misty forest and the town of White Mist. Chapter 8. Two Little Dolls. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After completing a series of tasks such as settling Baidu, stopping the formation, and calming everyone's emotions, Bai Lufeng received a letter from Bai Qi at dawn when he had time to return home and have a cup of hot tea. Bai Qian was concise and briefly explained a few things. Be wary of Zhang's attacks and never underestimate a spiritual realm. Countless cultivators rushed in, prepared in advance, and actively befriended the Xuanqing sect. Soon, a person named Zhang Shi will come to visit and tell him that Sister Su has already explained it clearly to Long Crocodile Pond. Notify all guides that upon receiving the guidance task, they must not be careless. In case of any unforeseen circumstances during this period, they must leave the Misty Forest post station as soon as possible. Before the end of the 6-month period, they must return to White Mist Town as soon as possible. Bai Qi's idea is very simple. It is absolutely impossible for Baiwu Town to accommodate tens of thousands of cultivators. At that time, one must bravely retreat from the current, and on the eve of the big exam, one must quickly leave the misty forest to minimize casualties. If it weren't for that damn curse, setting off immediately to a distant land would be the most correct choice. Bai Lufeng flipped through the token, reading it over and over again, repeatedly confirming the contents of Bai Qi's letter, especially the last line. On the 5th day of the 8th month in the year 3054 of the founding calendar, Bai Lu waited for me and broke free from the cage. Bai Liufeng's hands trembled slightly. He couldn't have imagined that this day would come so quickly. He had to gather all the guides as quickly as possible to make them realize that the wealth and prosperity of the heavens could easily become a catastrophic disaster. At the boundary marker, a frog the size of a thumb lay on Bai Qi's shoulder, croaking and speaking. The little frog is named Sleeping Frog. It has a yellow-brown color, no spots or blemishes, and looks like withered leaves. Bai Qi listened attentively and occasionally asked two questions, one person, one frog, and had interactions. Su Shiyu has seen sleeping frogs from the mist, but he doesn't remember how they can communicate with people. After Bai Qi finished communicating, the sleeping frog jumped into the pile of withered leaves and disappeared. Before us, two groups of people entered the misty forest. The first group arrived almost at the same time as you in Baiwu Town, and the second group had just entered. Bai Qi said. Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun didn't expect anyone to be earlier than them, and why did Bai Qi look a bit excited? Bai Qi smiled and asked, "Have you ever participated in hunting?" The two nodded. As the core disciples of the Xuanqing sect, they naturally heard about it from a young age and participated in it many times. Let's start a hunting operation to see where the two groups of people in front are holy. How about that? Bai Qi throws a small dim sum into his mouth, which is like talking to himself or talking with them. Qin Tianyun and Su Shiyu finally understood. Just now, Bai Qi's excited expression was clearly the expression of a hunter seeing his prey. Qin Tianyun patted his chest and gave himself a thumbs up to boost his courage, saying, "Just accompany you." Bai Qi grinned and drove his horse forward. The town of Baiwu is located halfway up the mountain, surrounded by half a circle along the way to reach the boundary of the misty forest. As the sun rises in the east, the mist gradually becomes thin. Qin Tianyun and his companions each activated the mist-dispelling spiritual tools to isolate the invasion of mist. Adapting to fog requires a gradual process, and the duration varies from person to person. If it is an ordinary practitioner, the spiritual energy in their body is mainly concentrated in the Dantian spirit sea, which can take 3 to 2 days. If it is as strong as Su Shiyu and Qin Tian Yun, the spirit sea is full, and the meridians of the 5 organs and 6 organs are full, which may take more than 10 days. Qin Tian Yun was feeling unwell all over, feeling a sense of powerlessness as he was forced to descend to the mortal realm, feeling that his spiritual power was being suppressed and dispersed by a mysterious force. Even though Su Shiyu had been mentally prepared, he felt uncomfortable all over. Suppressing and depriving spiritual power is like cutting off their hands and feet. Bai Qi gave them 4 days to adapt and started hunting on the 5th day. The prey is the currency of this forest. Without any prey in hand, even if the heavenly king Laozi comes, he cannot walk far. Of course, according to the sound of the sleeping frog, if the 2 groups of people who enter first continue to maintain a strong destructive rhythm deep into the forest, they may as well hunt it down and give a big gift to the local tribe. Misty Forest is not a pure kingdom of monsters, but home to many original inhabitants. According to Bai Qi's exploration, there are about 80 tribes within a range of 100 miles and 300 miles in the back mountain of Baiwu town, each with different sizes, forming barriers. Bai Qizing attempted to explore horizontally and communicate with surrounding small towns, ultimately determining that the barrier extended for millions of miles along the foggy boundary, with no end in sight. It is extremely difficult to penetrate the defense lines and enter the depths of the forest. At night. In the first post station, a cave that could only accommodate 4 or 5 people, Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun sat side by side, following the breathing method taught by Bai Qi, gradually swallowing the mist. The 2 of them are talented and adaptable faster than Bai Qi had imagined. For ordinary cultivators, as the fog thickens at night, there may be some adverse reactions such as dizziness, bloating, nausea, and vomiting. Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun not only overcame the symptoms, but also quickly integrated and entered a focused state, demonstrating their high intelligence. Su Shiyu seemed to have touched the trick earlier, gradually guiding his spiritual power to flow out of his body and filling it with mist. Qin Tianyun was unwilling to fall behind and closely followed behind. Unleashing spiritual power is like committing suicide, taking this step requires great courage. No one can casually abandon what they used to rely on all the time. Especially in an environment that is completely unfamiliar and full of unknown risks. Bai Qi sat at the entrance of the cave, whistling proficiently, roasting the rabbit with just the right amount of heat. The rabbit's skin gradually dyed golden yellow, and a thin layer of oil seeped out, emitting a fragrant aroma. Inside and outside the cave, 1 day, 1 earth. 2 little dolls, practicing martial arts. Hee 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 hee, what am I doing? Hee 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 hee, I'm grilling rabbits. 2 cute little ones are hiding, hee hee hee, what are you doing? Hee hee hee, don't hide anymore. The night in the misty forest was silent, with only the cheerful whistle of Bai Qi beating. The night is shrouded in mist. Inside the cave, sweat beads oozed from their foreheads, wetting their clothes and officially entering the stage of mist baptism. Outside the cave, guests come from afar. The campfire lit up, and 2 figures appeared behind the tree, showing no signs but a murderous aura. Bai Qi slowly turned the rabbit and said, "You 2 visited late at night, but were attracted by the fragrance. We agreed in advance, but the price is a bit expensive." The figure remained silent and drew his sword. "Oh my, 2 little rabbits, it's not worth such a big fight." Bai Qi quickly stood up, pulled out 2 daggers from his boots, and smiled, "Look, a little rabbit with a small knife is a perfect match. Using a cow knife would be too much." Chong. The figure disappeared and flashed in front of Bai Qi. The long sword struck directly at his waist. Bai Qi held a dagger in his hand, raised his right hand to block the long sword, and pushed his left hand horizontally to pull the sword away. He shouted, "Go!" A ray of formation light flashed through, and 2 wind cones condensed from Bai Chi's collarbone, shooting towards 2 figures respectively. The 2 figures clearly did not expect Bai Chi to use the formation to fight and quickly retreat. Bai Chi adjusted his hand posture and stood ready. He had just engaged in a short battle, and with just one touch, he immediately parted ways. The 2 opponents had extremely high physical strength, and with just one probing, his arms were numb. After all, Bai Chi is a mortal flesh fetus, and he still has some strength to fight against ordinary cultivators. If he were to fight against these 2 silent individuals in front of him, he would probably only be beaten in close combat. The post stations lit up dozens of earthy yellow lights one by one, and defense formations were activated one by one. Bai Chi and the others have been deeply cultivating the misty forest for many years, and the defense formations they have gradually built have finally come into play at this moment. This is a good time, this is a bad time. Bai Chi chuckled lightly. The good time is when the 2 people inside the cave are at their weakest point, and the bad time is when the timing and location are favorable. I have taken advantage of all the timing and location. The 2 figures were exposed to the earthy yellow light, feeling surrounded by plants and trees, and even the fog became increasingly thick. You need to think carefully, the efficacy of the elixir is almost here. Bai Chi's voice echoed through the forest. If it fails, it will cause backlash. In the misty forest, it's not a fun thing. The 2 did not respond to Bai Chi and resorted to another move. Pear Blossom Rain. Dozens of pear blossom needles pierced through the mist and shot towards Bai Chi. Lingfeng Slash. The blade wind swept up the remaining leaves, shattering the ground like the moon. Bai Chi Shou is located in the middle of the cave entrance, which is both an advantage and a disadvantage. His advantage is being in the middle of the formation and being protected by the formation. His disadvantage is that he has no way to avoid it and can only choose to defend himself. Bai Chi mobilized the formation defense, with 3 earthen walls rising one by one to block the pear blossom needle. Then, a whirlwind was swept up and cut towards the wind, causing chaos. Using spiritual spells in the misty forest is a thankless practice that not only requires a large amount of spiritual power, but also greatly reduces its power. In this way, when individuals use and arrange formation summoning in advance, they essentially compete for the total amount of spiritual energy. I suggest you merge them into one move, called fishing for the moon in the water. Bai Chi pointed to the 2 earthy yellow lights that were slowly extinguishing and mocked, "Oh, a warm reminder. Although the spirit-suppressing liquid is good, don't drink too much." The meaning of Bai Chi is even more obvious. A cluster of radiance represents a formation technique. There are also 16 clusters of Laozi. Although the inhibitory spirit liquid is good, its side effects are obvious. Exceeding the dosage will cause the spiritual sea and meridians to shrink. The spirit sea and meridians that have been painstakingly developed, once there are signs of shrinkage, may have no further potential to progress in the future. Gollum. Gollum. At the next moment, Bai Chi widened his eyes and couldn't believe it. The 2 people across from him didn't say a word, took out 2 bottles of medicine, opened them with a snap, and poured them into his mouth at the same time. Do you want to use elixirs and spirits together? It's not worth it. Click. Bai Chi stuffed spirit beans into his mouth, all of which were concentrated spiritual energy refined by him with Luo Gang. The spiritual energy spread out in his mouth, activating the formation engraved on his skin, and 2 patterns climbed onto Bai Chi's face. If there is a third person's perspective at this point, you will see the ridiculous scene of both sides in the battle being split at a touch and then entering halftime to eat wildly. Kill. A hoarse voice emanated from the second person, and in the next moment, their figure disappeared. Get up. Bai Chi mobilized the defensive formation, and the 5 layers of soil hemispheres gradually merged into a defensive force. The 2 of them rushed towards the defensive earthen wall, shuttling between the closed gaps without slowing down in speed. Swords and swords. The two of them approached by deceiving each other, separated by the last semi-spherical earthen wall, intending to use their combined skills to break through, and directly took Bai Chi's throat. Sword and sword, you immortal board. Bai Chi pinched the seal with both hands, and two wind cones were generated from above his shoulders, shooting away from the gap. At the same time, a thick soil wall rose behind the two, forming an encirclement. The thick soil wall protrudes and protrudes, with dozens of spikes shooting towards the back of the two. What's this move called? Ah, lure the turtle into the jar. The fifth half-earth wall in front of Bai Chi gradually closed, completely sealing the two of them. Chapter 9. Assassins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The two of them, who had an unknown origin, poured medicine wildly in an attempt to capture Bai Chi in one fell swoop. Bai Chishuan was psychologically caught off guard on the surface, launching layers of defense, but in reality, he left gaps between the defenses, allowing the incoming speed to be tracked and achieving the goal of locking in the opponent. Otherwise, with the determination to die and the explosive speed and strength, the other party will form a 2-against-1 situation, and the consequences will not be optimistic. The two people in the jar are trapped in darkness, with wind cones in front and soil thorns behind. The limited space for movement and avoidance is the best solution, which is to break through and top the soil wall. However, the two ignored the soil thorns flying from behind like pear blossom needles. After breaking through the oncoming wind cone, they exerted force on their sawls, and their swords combined to form a cross, cutting towards the position where Bai Chi was. Susu susu. The spike landed on the backs of the two, pricking blood flowers one after another, and at the same time, the earthen wall in front of them burst and fell. Behind the earthen wall, there was no one. Abandoning the owner and running away. It makes sense. The two of them were only slightly stranded and then swept towards the cave, with a strong sense of purpose. Just before the two of them could take a step forward, the dense mist in the air seemed to come alive, enveloping them and then rushing frantically into their nostrils, following their throat straight to the spirit sea. Suppressing spirit night only serves as a numbing effect, not a true suppression of spiritual power, so the two can still use spiritual power to fight. At this moment, mist poured into the spiritual sea, like lightning plowing through the meridians, which could no longer be suppressed. The excruciating pain doubled, and half of their spiritual power surged. Their eyes turned white, and they were on the verge of collapse. Where there is fog, there is water. Bai Chi's voice came from behind the two of them, and the water vapor in the air immediately froze and quickly rushed towards them, converging into a ball and locking their heads. Death lies between breathing. Between breaths, the figure of Bai Chi could be vaguely seen floating in the air. At this moment, there was no room for the two of them to think too much. They gathered their remaining spiritual power to break free from the fog, slapped the water ball with one hand, and instantly shot up on the ground, using all their strength to hit the target with one blow. Bai Chi raised two long spears in his hand and threw them from top to bottom to meet the enemy. The two of them disregarded the situation and rushed forward with their guns. Puff! The long spear pierced into the chest of the two, piercing their hearts from bottom to top. Why? The two of them couldn't believe it. Looking down at the long spear, Bai Chi was hanging upside down under the earth wall, not standing above. The mist dissipated, the water mirror drifted away, and the reflection of Bai Chi above disappeared without a trace. The two fell from the air and hit two roasted rabbits. Bai Chi clenched his seal with both hands and adjusted the formation again. The scattered water in the air turned into a cluster of arrows, falling like rain. He wanted to seal off their actions and not give them a chance to commit suicide. However, the two of them held a dying heart and bit through the venom hidden in their teeth, swallowing it and being released on the spot. The two of them, with a determined determination to die, lurked ahead, focused on their goals, and fought to the death without any hesitation or pause. Obviously, they had received professional training and abandoned meaningless emotions. What kind of hatred led to the eager assassination? Bai Qi sighed and said, "This has just begun. If we were to switch to other guides, what would happen? In addition to the generational hatred between cultivators and misty creatures, there is also the hatred between cultivators, followed by the hatred between misty forest spirits, which is intertwined in multiple ways. What kind of chaotic situation will it be? The tide of the times is rolling in." Bai Qi looked behind him and saw that Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun had reached a critical moment, with a painful expression on their faces and sweating profusely. To adapt to a new environment in a short period of time, one must pay a corresponding price. The defense array was rearranged. Bai Qi, who had lost rabbit meat, was bored. He thought about having fun. Suddenly, he had an idea. He took fragrant dim sum and ate them in front of Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun. Qin Tianyun's face changed from green to purple, and he was feeling uncomfortable. Su Shiyu is covered with gauze and doesn't show his true face, but he can't hide from Bai Qi. 5 kinds of dim sum are spread out and fanned. Even though their lives were in danger just now, the two of them never thought of scolding their mother. At this moment, they really wished they could give birth to 2 other hands, gripping Bai Qi's neck and shaking non-stop. Qin Tianyun couldn't bear it anymore and struggled to move his finger, wanting to grab a piece. Bai Qi refrained from laughing and pulled the dim sum back little by little, like luring the eel out of the hole. Qin Tianyun is like a stubborn caterpillar with 2 fingers, inching closer to dim sum step by step. Suddenly, Qin Tianyun launched and his chubby hands fiercely pulled, grabbing 2 pieces and sending them into the entrance. Bai Qi was stunned for a moment and burst into laughter. Qin Tianyun wants to cry. He is too difficult to eat a dim sum. Why do I feel a little relieved from the severe pain? Is it the effect of dim sum? Qin Tianyun thought about it carefully. Bai Qi fed him dim sum from the beginning when he entered the misty forest. He felt cool when he ate them. Speaking of this, I really want to eat an extra piece. But how could Bai Qi let him succeed? He took the dim sum to Su Shiyu's right side and put it down. He laughed and walked out of the cave. Teacher. Sister. Dim sum. Is useful. Qin Tianyun felt that his throat was burned by molten slurry, and tried his best to tell Su Shiyu that dim sum was useful. Su Shiyu is so smart. He picked a piece of it with his thin fingers, and the dim sum melted at the entrance. He didn't feel too cold in the morning. His channels are like sweet dew after a long drought, cheering and cheering. Give me. Qin Tianyun never expected that one day he would lose his heart for a plate of dim sum. Bai Qi returns, leaning against the cave wall, with a plate of dim sum in his hand. Qin Tianyun's face was filled with tears. Bai Qi is a typical person who is prepared for the rain. He found a grass nest and half lay down, took out a lotus leaf and planted it on the land. The land created a circle of black ripples, forming a small pool with a radius of half a foot. Soon, a sleeping frog jumped out of the black pool and onto the lotus leaf. The sleeping frog croaked and talked. Oh. Interestingly, I went to Dragon Crocodile Pond. The first group of people entered the misty forest early to lurk. Why did the second wave of people go to Dragon Crocodile Pond? Is it related to Zhangshi? Bai Qi began to ponder. There was nothing to say overnight. The rising sun rises, and the mist is thin. Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun slowly opened their eyes, and the first thing that caught their eye was not the bright sunlight, but a brown one blocking the entrance of the cave monsters. The monster's head is higher than the entrance of the cave, and its 5-person-wide body just blocks the entrance. Judging from its size and physique, it is undoubtedly an adult demon bear. Take a look at me, take a look at you, and think to yourself that Bai Qi won't be killed. They are in a weak period and are sealed in a cave by an adult demon beast. They look very much like the food stored by a demon bear. Is something wrong with Bai Qi? can only wait to die. When Qin Tianyun remembered this, he felt anxious and dared to poke forward without any response. There is a gap next to it that can allow one person to pass sideways. Why don't you go out and take a look? Qin Tianyun wanted to discuss with Su Shiyu, but found that his mouth was dry and his words became tangled. He gave up this idea and decided to show the courage of a man and give it a try. I saw him take a deep breath, tuck away his belly, and move his body sideways against the cave wall. I thought it was outside the forest, and I didn't even blink. The sunshine is within reach and within reach. Ouch! The demon bear seemed to feel Qin Tianyun's thoughts. Suddenly, his body came over and squeezed Qin Tianyun into a meat cake, pressing his whole face against the cave wall and making a scream. Su Shiyu watched this scene, wanting to laugh but not laughing out loud. At half a sound, the demon bear sat upright, and Qin Tianyun got a chance to catch his breath and immediately flashed outside the cave. After a while, Su Shiyu also arrived outside the cave. The two of them stared blankly at one person and one bear, lost in thought. The demon bear has a head that protrudes from the entrance of the cave, and its copper bell-sized eyes are engaged in a battle between heaven and humanity. From time to time, it waves its huge palm to disperse mosquitoes and flies, appearing sleepless. As for Bai Qi, lying in the grass nest, with a big character on all four limbs and a saliva flowing at the corner of his mouth, unconscious. The sunlight fell on each person and bear, creating a warm and peaceful scene. Looking next, the two assassins who were killed last night froth at the mouth, their eyes turn white, and the blood on the ground dries up. The tragic scene contrasts strongly with one person, one bear. Ah, ah. Qin Tianyun erupted and stomped on the grass while shouting, "It's a shame that I'm worried about you, but you're sleeping soundly." Su Shiyu stood beside, covering her mouth and chuckling lightly. Pop. The demon bear was awakened and saw Bai Qi being beaten. It immediately remembered its responsibility to protect the cave and Bai Qi. Subconsciously, it made a defensive move and slapped a bear's paw. Qin Tianyun was slapped straight, his head buzzing, and he fainted on the spot. In his sleep, Bai Qi felt someone punching and kicking him. He rubbed his sleepy eyes and woke up. He saw a fairy-like woman cover her mouth and chuckle lightly. Yu reading book www.yuyukeangshu.net immediately turned pale and said seriously, "Fairy, there are many ways to wake up. You can't be angry and wake up." Ah, ah. Su Shiyu just stepped on it like a wild stomp. At this moment, Bai Qi realized that the person who came was Su Shiyu and said, "The Su guest is polite." What's so polite? Su Shiyu was probably infected by Bai Qi and Qin Tianyun, showing a fierce expression, but why did she look so fresh and refined in Bai Qi's eyes? Bai Qi's eyes rolled and he noticed Qin Tianyun under his feet. He immediately changed the topic and said, "Oh my, Tianyun, why are you sleeping everywhere? You're not in the right shape. I don't even think about who just slept everywhere." Su Shiyu couldn't do anything about Bai Qi and raised his fist, "I need to take a shower." Bai Qi immediately said, "I will surely guard by my side." "Who wants you to guard? Go to sleep." Bai Qi and Qin Tianyun squatted on the grass, each with a branch, playing with the fresh green grass. Qin Tianyun still couldn't believe it. "Junior sister, did you take a shower and get that big bear cheaper?" Bai Qi dug out his ear and said, "It's called Dubai." Qin Tianyun glanced askance at Bai Qi and said, "Why do you look like you missed a good opportunity?" Bai Qi pursed his lips and said, "Humph, the days ahead are long." The two of them were idle, chatting while waiting for Su Shiyu. "By the way, how many grudges do you have? Can we extract clues from them?" Bai Qi had a premonition that last night the two were by no means the last two. Qin Tianyun fell into silence for a long time and said, "To be honest, in order to maintain a pure Tao heart, I have never taken a step out of the Xuanqing gate, and I only know one friend, Sister Shiyu." Now you count me one, if you treat me as a friend. Bai Chiduan held onto the wooden stick in his hand. Chapter 10. Running in the Rain. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Without hearing anything outside the window, Qin Tianyun was the one speaking. Not to mention the fights and killings outside the sect gate, but also the twists and turns inside the sect gate, he is completely unaware. On the other hand, very few people know him, and he has never offended anyone. On the contrary, it was Sister Su, who had countless talented young masters who wanted to see her true appearance. Every day, she lined up from the top of Xiantian Peak to the foot of the mountain. Coupled with her excellent talent, as the saying goes, Mu Xiu was always urged by Lin Feng, and there were probably many who thought of her premature death. Su Xiu nodded and said that she had encountered many assassins along the way with teacher Xuanqiu. After listening, Bai Qi made a mistake and knew himself and his enemy in order to be invincible in 100 battles. However, at present, there is no other way but to take a walk. The three of them set off again, leaving the Bai in place. The next destination is Waguyuan. Since it is called an orchard, it naturally needs to be managed by someone, and if someone manages it, it requires currency exchange. Generally, orchard owners use collecting monster crystal hearts and intelligence as exchange conditions. So before arriving at the orchard, Bai Qi and his companions only need to hunt enough crystal hearts to exchange for fog fruits, which can be used by Su Xiu and Qin Tianyun to accelerate their adaptation to the misty forest. But it needs to be fast enough. If someone takes the lead and the orchard owner knows the future, they can raise prices, or if the orchard is monopolized by a large tribe, things that could have been easily accomplished will become very passive. Since Xingqian Academy allows creatures from the misty forest to participate in the imperial examination, it proves that the senior management of the misty forest and Xingqian Academy must have reached some kind of contract, and at the worst, they have also reached a basic consensus. Under this premise, it is impossible for the creatures in the misty forest not to know. In other words, all the original inhabitants know the star exam, but only the speed of time. The orchard is located on the edge of the misty forest, which is certainly the bottom layer of the forest, but due to the usual sale of intelligence, the speed of obtaining information will inevitably not be much slower. I also don't know what kind of reaction those big aristocratic families like Xuanqing Gate will make after learning the news in advance. It is highly likely to be similar to the Xuanqing Gate, selecting the emperor's proud son within the tribe to welcome future changes. Continuing to speculate, how would they prepare for the big exam if it were conducted within their advantageous territory? Is it continuous training to improve adaptability, setting more traps, or uniting more tribes? Yes, but not entirely. The original analysis of Bai Qi and Su Xiu is that from the perspective of Xingqian Academy, this exam is very different from the past. How to appear more fair and balance the combat effectiveness of the two will be the starting point of the rules set for this exam. So how will the rules evolve? Bai Qi and others have no way of knowing, but starting from the first principle, no matter how the rules evolve, no matter how the misty creatures start preparing, there is always one thing they cannot avoid and must do, which is to collect and study the rules of previous star exams. That is to say, the mist creatures have a demand. There is demand, there is market. Where there is a market, there are opportunities for cooperation. This is the power of information. This is the real reason why Bai Qi and his companions are in a hurry to enter the misty forest at the first time. Because information has timeliness. They need to quickly gain the trust of the original inhabitants on the first line of defense, then take separate actions and continue to expand their support. Ultimately, they need to gather the trust of many original inhabitants and gain recognition from major tribes in order to have the possibility of cooperation. Before the big exam starts, stroll around someone else's backyard without their consent, and no one can enter or exit freely. Of course, the Xuanqing sect or other sects can form a large team and slowly advance, but the resulting Liangzi will inevitably erupt into an uncontrollable situation in the big exam. That's not what Bai Qi wants to see. what he wants is to fully utilize his strengths. The first step is to quickly adapt to the misty forest in front of the first line of defense, using the method that you have found yourself. The second step is to cross the second line of defense and use the supplies at the post station to adapt and arm. Step 3, use the network accumulated in the misty forest for many years to brush your face. Collect as many household tokens as possible, and then hunt for precious prey, in other words, increase the cost of negotiations. Since we are seeking cooperation through door-to-door visits, it is not easy to trade recklessly if we do not have any inventory in hand. The above needs to be completed in a short period of time, leaving the rear team far behind. Why? Because of another most important reason, he wants to surpass the teachers and students appointed by Shinchin Academy, namely the judges. Imagine that if everything goes well and a contract is reached with the big tribe, the teachers of Shinchin Academy will come to communicate about the layout of the site and other details, and they can still escape Bai Chi's eyeliner. Yesterday on the road, Bai Chi and Su Shiyu said that since they are the leaders, we need to think from the perspective of the question setter and run faster than everyone, including the teacher and the referee. If you want to lead, then seriously lead by a few physiques. Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun came with the mindset of familiarizing themselves with the exam room in advance. It would be best if they could complete some simple arrangements in advance, which would be helpful for the big exam. Alternatively, like the mindset of most cultivators, delve deep into an unknown place, seize opportunities, and wait for the arrival of the supernatural realm. I even thought about taking 10,000 steps back and working together with Zhang Shi and others to reach the summit. That's because you still have a way out, and I don't, Bai Chiru replied. Bai Chi indeed did not have it. In the foreseeable future, this big exam may be his only opportunity to break through the cage, and negotiating with the big tribe, external items such as tokens and prey are naturally essential. But the most important thing is what is inside. It is strength. Due to the need to enhance his strength, his time is extremely tight. Yesterday, Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun listened to Bai Chi's preliminary speculation and analysis, and dared not delay for half a minute. They took the initiative to ask Bai Chi to use the fastest adaptation method on the spot. So there was the agony of the night before. Fortunately, hard work pays off for those who have a heart. When they woke up in the morning, they felt the spiritual power flowing into the spiritual sea, forming a ball that condensed but did not emit, giving a sense of security. However, their bodies were no longer bound by fog and became more agile. Qin Tianyun played an extremely complex set of physical techniques on the grassland. Apart from a slight lack of strength, each move was smooth and flowing, and he found that the pure strength of his body could also be full of vitality, which was truly surprising. Since stepping into the ranks of cultivating immortals and entering the realm of spiritual beings, this is the first time that Qin Tianyun has unloaded his spiritual power and realized the power and pleasure brought by his pure physical body. Perhaps, the realm of cultivators alone can lead to a path without promotion. Qin Tianyun had a realization in his heart. He was walking on the path of pure Tao heart, and pure physical body is also a kind of purity. Bai Chi watched as Qin Tianyun quickly entered a state of enlightenment, and suddenly understood that Su Shiyu's words were true. Such talents did not need to be proven through an exam, but Qin Tianyun only needed to maintain his pure Tao heart and make rapid progress every day. In fact, Su Shiyu has just completed a reflection. When spiritual power is constantly present and used to perceive the world, over the years, unconsciously, only spiritual energy remains in the eyes, as if everything in the world is composed of spiritual beings. When the environment forces a person to abandon spiritual power and view the world in the most authentic biological state, there will naturally be another perception. However, there is no one who dares to let go of the things they rely on the most. Courage is often mentioned, but rarely given. Su Shiyu stood in the lake, his slender fingers sliding over the surface of the lake, stirring the white mist as if touching the long-lost truth, thus completing an epiphany. The two of them were well aware that thanks to this insight, they would eventually break through to a new realm after leaving the misty forest. And everything has just begun. At this moment, Su Shiyu and Qin Tianyun completely understood what Luo Gang said. As long as Bai Qi is willing to teach all his preaching, he has the opportunity to break through a great realm. At the same time, I also understood what Xuanxu had said. After leaving this room, there would be no more incidents. Because Pifu is innocent and harbors a guilty conscience. When more and more people know that Bai Qi has the tricks to elevate his realm, what welcomes him is not worship and admiration, but it is highly likely a fatal disaster of soul-searching and soul-snatching. Bai Qi is well aware of this principle. Simply put, when a person lacks strength and possesses unique skills, it is an original sin. It is not that he is unwilling to impart them to Luo Gang, but that he is currently unable to do so. Fortunately, Luo Gang was upright throughout his life, deeply aware of the difficulties involved, and never forced, but chose to believe and wait. The three of them drove side by side and soon arrived at a barren land. The barren land in front of us is known as the forest scar. If viewed from a high altitude, the entire Gobi presents a heavy black-red color, about 50 miles wide and thousands of miles long. According to legend, it is a knife mark left by an ancient superpower in a fit of anger. Bai Qi and his companions were carrying bows and arrows, standing at the edge of the knife, feeling two breaths. One exceptionally fierce and the other corrupt, intertwined and unable to distinguish each other. And their prey hides within it. Rotten wolf. Eating on wind blades. Individuals are weak, but group consciousness is extremely strong. It needs to be divided and governed. Bai Qi set an example and drove his horse deep into a crack, cutting into a wind blade of the appropriate size, causing a commotion before running wildly. 3 adult decay wolves led more than 10 young decay wolves out of the cracks, relentlessly chasing after them. Bai Qi's speed was neither tight nor slow, just right. With a decaying wolf hanging from his ponytail, he jumped onto a gentle hill and then started cutting with his hand, slicing a piece. Qin Tianyun observed in secret and saw that Bai Qi had easily completed the first wave of luring and hunting. He also followed suit and ran to a crack. He raised his hand and activated the magic array to throw wind blades inside, throwing them 7 or 8 times. Immediately after, a beautiful scenery line appeared on the desert, howling loudly. Dozens of adult rotten wolves worked together to form a semi-circular arc and counter-attacked Qin Tianyun. Qin Tianyun's buttocks were smoking, and he drove his horses to flee and collide, feeling very embarrassed. "Grandma, a wolf, why is mine different?" The wolves chased relentlessly, with power, speed, and quantity far exceeding those lured by Bai Qi. Bai Qi stood on the hill and looked, but his gaze did not fall on Qin Tianyun. Instead, it fell on Su Shiyu and the 10-person team that suddenly emerged behind her. "Shiyu, run!" Bai Qi roared and drove his horse down the hill, frantically rushing towards Su Shiyu. Su Shiyu was slightly taken aback and did not notice any danger approaching from behind. Instead, he was curious about why Bai Qi was so excited when he called her name for the first time.